for the Super Bowl, America's sports leader, NBC. This is the NFL on NBC with host Greg Gumbel and co-host Ahmad Rashad.
And Lambeau Field in Green Bay is the site as the Packers host the Miami Dolphins. Surprisingly, the lone unbeaten in this game is Miami, not Green Bay. It's a matchup featuring two great quarterbacks. Dan Marino has plenty of passing records, but still no Super Bowl title. Brett Favre has a Super Bowl title in hand and a couple of MVP awards to go with it. In the Georgia Dome, the Oakland Raiders, coming off a heartbreaking loss last Monday night, take on Dan Reeves' new team, the Atlanta Falcons. Jeff George used to be the Falcons quarterback until this outburst against his former coach, June Jones. When Atlanta said goodbye, Oakland said hello. In the first two games, he's had moments of brilliance and moments to forget. The beneficiary of Jeff George's bad decisions last week, the Kansas City Chiefs. Today, the new-look Chiefs host the Buffalo Bills at Arrowhead Stadium. Elvis Grbac looked terrific in bringing the Chiefs back last week, throwing the winning touchdown with just 3 seconds left. Today, he'll have to concern himself with Bruce Smith and a Buffalo defense that smothered the Jets last week. The road has not been the kindest place for the Baltimore Ravens. Today, they venture to the New Jersey Meadowlands to take on the Giants. Hi, everyone. We welcome you to our studio here in New York. I'm Greg Gumbel, along with Ahmad Rashad, Chris Collinsworth, and Sam Weish. And Joe Gibbs will be joining us shortly. Let's get right to the major injury news of this day. Who's in and who's out? Kerry Collins will start at quarterback for Carolina against San Diego 5 weeks after suffering a broken jaw. His counterpart will be the Chargers' Stan Humphries, who returns after missing last week with a dislocated left shoulder. In Atlanta, Chris Chandler will start at quarterback for the Falcons against the Raiders, despite suffering a concussion last week. Steve Young returns for the 49ers, who host the Saints. Young suffered a concussion 2 weeks ago, his third in 10 months. And that brings us to the show and tell portion of our show. Sam Weish has been doing some research. What do you have for us?
Well, I talked to several trainers around the league that have quarterbacks returning. In the case of Kerry Collins, he's going to wear what in effect will be a defensive lineman's mask instead of his quarterback mask. In the case of Steve Young, he's going to wear a mouthpiece that will fit over the bottom part of the mouth, extra padding in the helmet, so that he won't be suffering from the jars and so forth. You know, there are 90 concussions per season average over the last 10 years in the National Football League, more than you thought. Now, in the case of Stan Humphries, who is recovering from one of my Sam I Am tie, from a left shoulder separation, he's wearing what's called a Duke Rye harness right here. And this was developed by the University of Maryland trainer back in the 1920s. You know, so much for sports medicine. But it doesn't let that arm get out there so that you can re-injure that left shoulder.
Did Mike Dick ever take his jacket off during the course of the show?
He never took his jacket off, and he never wore a straight jacket in, calling it a, what was it?
Well, don't say straight jacket. That's bringing back some old memories for me as a coach.
Let me get your jacket here.
Thank you so much.
All right, Sam, we appreciate the fashion risk you took coming here this morning like that. Let's get to our big game of this day, the 1-1 Packers hosting the 2-0 Dolphins. Green Bay has never beaten Miami, 8 tries in all, and all of the losses coming against Don Shula-coached Dolphin teams. But the Packers have been unbeatable at home the last 2 years, 16 straight regular season wins at Lambeau, the 6th longest streak in league history, 19 in a row counting the postseason. With a report, Dick Enberg, Paul McGuire, and Phil Simms. Gentlemen.
Greg, a lot of good news for Green Bay, but last week a loss was not easy to digest. Good news, Mark Chmura, the tight end, expected to be out 4 to 6 weeks after his knee injury in the season opener against Chicago, will return and start today. But, Phil Simms, this is a different Super Bowl roster than we saw a year ago.
It is different, Dick. You know, last year they had such great depth on this football team. What they lost during the offseason, as you see the list, is some really good playmakers, which has hurt the production of the football team. Then you put in the injured players. Mike Holmgren, talking to him yesterday, he says, after 2 games, we're scraping the bottom of the barrel already with our players. We cannot afford another injury.
And they've learned in a hurry that teams like to get up for the Super Bowl champs.
Well, the players and coaches all offseason heard that old cliche that you're going to see the best from your opposition every single week, and they go, yeah, we will. And what they have found out after 2 games, they do see the best from the opposition every week. If they're not ready emotionally and physically to play, they know they have a chance to get beat.
And in facing Miami, they're facing arguably arguably the best ever at quarterback, Dan Marino, but it hasn't been all that smooth down in South Florida for him.
No, it hasn't. But we talked to Jimmy Johnson yesterday, and he said to us, I don't want to be cold about this thing, but I'm going to tell you what, I did not blindside Dan Marino. My job is to win football games. I told Dan before I told anyone else that he knew he did not have a great preseason. The first game wasn't very good. However, he had a 300-yard game last week, but he would not hesitate to put Craig Erickson in the game. But again, if that would happen next week against Tampa Bay, Dan Marino would be the starting quarterback.
But Marino looking for his first touchdown pass of the year after 2 games. Well, this is a Milwaukee-Green Bay game. They don't play down in County Stadium anymore, but there are 2 games each year designated for the Milwaukee fans, and some 50,000 have made the 2-hour trek to the north since 5 o'clock this morning to cheer for their beloved Green Bay Packers in whatever way they can. So from America's Dairyland, let's go back to a man who knows how to milk a good story. Greg?
You know, that's what Sam Weiss was covering up with that harness, all of that green paint. Sharp-eyed coach that Jimmy Johnson is, do you think he looked at Philadelphia's win over Green Bay last week and learned from it?
Yeah, because the Packers were clearly bothered by the blitz that Philadelphia threw at them. Unfortunately, the Miami Dolphins have not been a blitz football team, and if they try to come out today and blitz this Green Bay offense, I think they're going to get barbecued because of the fact they just don't have the cover cornerbacks that Philadelphia had. And Sam, you've been in this situation. Do you go with what you do well or what you saw on film?
Well, let me tell you how this works. On Monday morning, you come in, you look at the film of your game, and then you look at your next opponent, and you watch what other teams did. So Miami's going to see what Philadelphia did against the Green Bay Packers. They knocked Brett Favre down 12 times, and they're definitely going to try to blitz him. Brett Favre's going to get his wish. He hopes everybody blitzes.
All right, Sam, we'll have lots more on the Packers a bit later as Bob Costas talks with Brett Favre and Mike Holmgren. Let's move to another of our early games, Buffalo at Kansas City. These 2 teams met in the final regular season game last year with a playoff berth at stake. Buffalo won. Both teams are 1-1 now. With a report, we go to James Lofton in Kansas City. James.
Hey, Greg, how are you doing? Both teams are 1-1, but you wouldn't recognize the quarterbacks. Last year it was Steve Bono against Jim Kelly. Jim Kelly was ushered out of town on a red carpet. Steve Bono was just, I guess, ushered out of town. As far as the guys chasing the quarterbacks, Derek Thomas is normally the guy who does that. I was just in the Kansas City locker room. Derek Thomas has been placed on the inactive list. Yesterday, Derek told us he was going to play. Marty said he wasn't going to play. Well, he's not going to play now. Bruce Smith, you know, he doesn't have any problems. Derek Thomas has that big tricep problem. But Bruce Smith got some news this week also. His news was from Marv Levy. Marv Levy walked up to him during practice and pulled him off to the side and said, Bruce, you know, I think we should spot play you a little bit this year so that you can be more effective in the fourth quarter. We did some researching on our own. For his career, Bruce Smith, 28% of his sacks have come in the fourth quarter. But last year, in 1996, 51% of his sacks have come in the fourth quarter. So my math figures that Bruce Smith is not getting older, he's getting better, but maybe Marv still thinks he needs a rest. What about that, Greg?
I think you're right, James. I wouldn't begin to argue with you. You know, with the injury and now Derek being inactive, it even puts even more pressure on that passing game, which has been going so well, Gerbach to Andre Rison.
Plus, you have one of the best pass rushing teams in the league in the Buffalo Bills working against one of the worst pass blocking teams in the Kansas City Chiefs. Trezell Jenkins, who really has struggled at that right tackle position, has finally been put on the bench exactly where he belongs. Glenn Parker comes in to play that position. He played pretty well last week, but he was cut by the Buffalo Bills, who have offensive line problems of their own. I just think that Bruce Smith and Bryce Pop are going to have a big day here today.
All right, Sam.
Well, you know, I did this ball game last year in Buffalo, probably the worst football game between 2 contending teams late in the year that I saw. It brought about a lot of changes. Dan Hiddings, the new coordinator in Buffalo. The Kansas City Chiefs, of course, Perryman and Rison are the new receivers. Gerbach, the new quarterback, and they're featuring Greg Hill. So we'll see who's made the most progress today.
All right, guys, let's slide it over to Amato as more.
All right, Greg, the Buffalo Bills have entered a new era with Jim Kelly's retirement and the emergence of Todd Collins as his replacement. But today we are going to focus on Jim Kelly and his family's saga dealing with the illness of Jim's son, Hunter. The 7-month-old boy has a rare affliction called Krabbe's disease. Doctors hold little hope that the youngster will live past the age of 2.
You think of my life the last year and a half. I mean, I went from my mother passing away to getting married to having another child to the illness of my child. I mean, and then retiring everything all at once, and it seems like it's one after another. I mean, up and down, up and down.
And we will bring you the story of Kelly and his son Hunter a little bit later. Here's a look at the rest of our show.
Still to come, the two-time reigning league MVP Brett Favre of the Green Bay Packers talks to Bob Costas. We'll hear from Raiders quarterback Jeff George about his return to Atlanta today. And we'll have more from Jim Kelly and the poignant story of his 7-month-old son, Hunter.
The Georgia Dome in Atlanta is the site of an intriguing matchup today as the Raiders and Jeff George play the Falcons. Both teams are coming off last-second defeats. With a report, Tom Hammond and Jim Kelly.
All right, thank you, Ahmad. And you know most of the attention for this game is centered on Raider quarterback Jeff George and his return to Atlanta. But there's another quarterback story. Chris Chandler of the Falcons has taken a beating in the first 2 games of the season. Against Detroit in the opener, hit a total of 27 times by Dan Reeves' count. And then last week against the Carolina Panthers, more of the same. In fact, on this play, watch how hard his head bounces off the AstroTurf. Chandler, suffering a mild concussion, had to be removed from the game. And though he is back in quarterback today, Jim Kelly, it means a lot of pressure on the Atlanta offensive line.
Well, there is, and Dan Reeves has issued a challenge to his offensive line. Either improve in all phases of the line game, and in particular, pass protection, or there'll be changes made very shortly, especially at right tackle with Anton Davis. He struggled in the first 2 games.
And in a nice touch of irony, who do you think the offensive line coach of the Falcons is? None other than Art Shell, the former Raider head coach. Jim, on a personal note, later in the program we'll be seeing a feature on you and your son, Hunter, who is battling leukodystrophy. I know it's a difficult time for you.
It's very difficult on the whole family, but right now what we're trying to do is spread the awareness about his illness, so hopefully down the road it can help a couple families, because right now there are tough times in the Kelly household.
And I know everyone will be touched by that feature coming up just a little later. Greg?
All right, Tom, Jim, thank you both. Remember Jim Kelly's story a bit later. Don't miss that. Right now, let's go to Foxborough, where tonight the Patriots host Bill Parcells and the Jets. Will McDonough's news and notes begin with Drew Bledsoe's sensational first 2 games. Will?
Thanks, Greg. The word of the day, I think, in this report is pressure. Bill Parcells told me during the week that here tonight, the Jets better be able to put the pressure on Drew Bledsoe, or else they're going to have a difficult time winning this game. And the reason for that is the Patriots' offensive line has done a better job protecting Bledsoe than any other quarterback has been protected so far this year in the league. 70 times Bledsoe has gone back to pass. He's only been touched 6, and only twice has he been hit hard. Let's talk about some pressure building on the New York Giants. After the game last week in Jacksonville, when they were beat and gave up 40 points, Jim Fassler, new head coach, wasn't very happy. He told some of his players in the locker room after the game, a lot of you quit on me out there in the second half today, and if you do it again, you'll be gone. I'll get rid of you the next week. Bobby Ross has taken the same kind of approach in Detroit with his players. He's very angry after they get beat by Tampa Bay last week. He responded this Monday by putting them in pads, which very seldom happens on Monday in the National Football League. And he told them the easy days are over around here. If you're late for a meeting, or you don't practice the way you should, I'm going to fine you. Let's talk about a possible miracle comeback. Could Mark Brunell play next week against Pittsburgh? He might. Brunell has been practicing in pads during the week, but head coach Tom Coughlin says he doesn't know who his quarterback will be when his team returns to action next week. And finally, what was the key to the victory of the Arizona Cardinals last week when they played the Dallas Cowboys? Emmitt Smith, the great running back of the Cowboys, was injured in the second half. He hurt his ribs, and they wanted to send him to the X-ray room to get X-ray before he could return. And when he went there with a trainer, they couldn't get in. Nobody had the key, and the result, he had to come back without being X-rayed, and the Cowboys did not want to put him back in the game. When it was over, owner Jerry Jones of the Cowboys went to Bill Bidwell of the Arizona team and said, listen, you can't even buy a key for the X-ray room? Bidwell said, don't talk to me. I don't own the stadium. Talk to Arizona State. Back to you, Greg.
All right, Will, thank you. Let's get back to our big game of this day, Miami and Green Bay. The Packers and Mike Holmgren looking to defend their Super Bowl title. Holmgren spoke with Bob Costas.
They say there was actually talk around here about 19-0. That's done.
That's done. And that's the first thing I said when I came in the locker room after the Eagle game last week, is that now we can eliminate that kind of talk. I told the players that the feeling or the idea of winning every ball game is a healthy one. That's a good one. but I've never wanted them to really talk a lot about that. Just like last year, I didn't really want them to talk about the Super Bowl.
You make one kick at the end, you could be 2-0. But last year, you were crushing people. Average margin of victory better than 2 touchdowns. This year, the Bear game was a little bit of a struggle, and Philadelphia was a loss. What's your level of concern?
Not too high, really. We have a good football team. Last year, the difference was, as you look back on it, the first 3 or 4 games, we had a tremendous number of turnovers. We created turnovers. The other thing is, as much as you want to say that it's business as usual after you win a Super Bowl, it's not. And the players feel it, the coaches feel it. Now, we're fighting that a little bit, but we also know the other team's going to come in and play their finest game against us.
When you hit the field against the Dolphins, it'll be the first time since last November that you're coming off a loss in a game that mattered. How do you approach that?
One of the things I talked to the team about this week and then right after the game was that it had been a long time since we had that feeling of that ache, that hurt when you lose a tough game. We won 13 games in a row. You kind of forget how bad it is, how bad you feel. And so in that respect, that might be good for us. And so we approached it that way. Remember the feeling. Okay, now we hadn't gone through it very often lately. Now this is what losing feels like. And you know how good winning was, so let's get back on track.
There have been 6 head coaches in Green Bay since Vince Lombardi left. Bankston, Devine, Starr, Gregg, Infante, and Holmgren. The only one with a winning record is Mike Holmgren. We'll be back in just a moment.
Coming up next, Raiders quarterback Jeff George on his return to Atlanta when the NFL on NBC continues.
Everyone, as we talk about some of the other games today, beginning with St. Louis at Denver. The Broncos are 2-0 early on. They started the season 12-1 last year. We've seen this before.
Yeah, and I think their defense is going to be licking their chops today. They're going against Tony Banks, who has a real problem fumbling the football. His fumbles last week basically cost the Rams the game against the San Francisco 49ers. 21 times last season he fumbled the football, far and away more than any other player. If he doesn't hold on to it today, they have no chance at all.
Yeah, St. Louis's defense has played well, Sam. Defense hasn't been the problem.
Defense hasn't been the problem because their kicker has been their only offense. You know, when you talk about the Rams, the first week wasn't that way, but last week he kicked 4 field goals. Their problem this week is their offensive line is banged up. Orlando Pace only took 6 snaps last week. Probably won't take more than a dozen this week. Just not ready to play yet.
New Orleans at San Francisco. Steve Young returns for the Niners, and life doesn't get any easier for Mike Ditka, does it?
Well, Mike Ditka may have to use some of those trick plays he was criticizing me for last week.
Oh, that got him. That got him. That got him last week.
Michael up. But, you know, what I think is going to happen is when you get a quarterback that's coming back and he's made the statement that he's going to play smarter, Steve Young is, sometimes that translates into playing tentatively, and that's where Mike Ditka could take advantage of it.
You know, Sam, the other thing is that Mike has really made the commitment to Heath Schuler, despite the fact that he hasn't thrown a touchdown pass yet. He has 5 interceptions. Looks like a young quarterback out there, but Mike claims, anyway, that he learned his lesson with Jim Harbaugh. We'll see how much longer that lasts.
Arizona comes off a big upset of Dallas last week. They visit Washington, the inaugural game at Jack Kent Cooke Stadium. And you look at recent history, Arizona has owned the Redskins. They've won 8 of the last 10.
They sure have. And of course, they played awfully well against the Dallas Cowboys last week. But Washington played okay as well. I just thought that Gus Frerotte sort of gave the game away with some of those interceptions in the end zone. But opening the new stadium, the Jack Kent Cooke Stadium, you've got to believe Washington's going to be jacked up. Plus, they get Terry Allen back. I think Washington's going to win here.
I'll tell you what I think.
All right.
Since you were sitting there not saying anything. Terry Allen be back. Still got that thumb a little bit, but the guy they're going to miss is Sean Gilbert. This guy's still holding out over the contract dispute. They need him in that defensive line.
All right, another NFC East game tomorrow night, and it is a good one. Philly at Dallas. Chris?
The Dallas Cowboys have to bounce back, obviously, after what happened to them in Arizona. Their defense still playing very well, but their offense without Anthony Miller just has not been the same. Deion Sanders gets a little look at wide receiver, but I'm not convinced this guy's a wide receiver, Sam.
Well, he's going to take a few snaps at wide receiver just in the meeting rooms here and there. Probably just knows a few patterns. Philadelphia's going to blitz. They had a lot of success last week against Green Bay. They're going to go back to it this week.
One other note, the Dallas Cowboys are 12-2 following a loss under Barry Switzer. Stay with us. Our NFL on NBC coverage continues.
This is the NFL on NBC.
In the Meadowlands, the New York Giants host the Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore lost all 8 of its road games a year ago. With a report, we go to Randy Cross.
Well, thanks, Greg. You know, if you're a football team looking for a little confidence, looking for a road win, why not come to New York? Because confidence is a problem, especially at quarterback with Dave Brown. He told us something interesting the other day. He says, hey, guys, we have 3 guys on offense struggling with confidence. Tyrone Wheatley, Thomas Lewis, and me. And, you know, confidence is born in early success. And if you look at his numbers from last week, not bad, but early, 3 of 13 for 32 yards, just getting off to some horrendous starts. And as a career, it gets an A lot of interceptions, not enough touchdowns. I think the guy has a problem really with the leadership on the field personally. You know how things work nowadays, fellas. This is not rebuilding. This is a church of what's happening now. You got to learn how to win and teach your team how to win. Jim Fossil's in that situation. Dave Brown understands it. He says, hey, first the coach goes, then the quarterback goes. He understands that very well. And for Jim Fossil, if Dave Brown does not start well, for my money, you've got to go with Danny Cannell and find out what he can do and how much confidence he's got. Back to you, Ahmad.
All right, Randy, the church of what's happening now. Anyway, let's go back to the Raiders and the Falcons. The headline for this game is Jeff George's return to Atlanta, where he played 3 seasons, the last of which was cut short by a suspension following a blow-up with his coach, June Jones. George spoke with Jim Gray.
Looking closer for Jeff George.
And that kind of conversation may seal his fate.
How would you characterize your stay with the Falcons now that you've had some time to reflect back on it?
I reflect back on the one year we went to the playoffs, and I'm proud of that. But everything else, you know, you just want to forget. You know, there was some bad times, and you know, they probably feel the same way. But you know, you move forward. I'm in a great situation in California and with the Raiders, and it's a perfect fit.
You know when you take the field and you're announced, and you come out for that first play, the reaction is going to be a chorus of boos.
You know, it's not going to be any different than the way it was in the past. You know, it was the same way last year and 2 years ago, and you know, even when we went to the playoffs, you know, I got booed. So, you know, I'll feel right at home.
We deserve the boos. Goodness gracious, I'm booing us.
You can't blame, you know, players for everything. You know, I know you have to go out there and perform, but if you're not in a situation that has the organization has stability, you know, you're never going to win. And you know, it's not the player's fault. And you know, you just need stability in organizations.
The incident with June Jones. A lot of people will be surprised, but I understand you're close friends with June and you talk to him regularly.
Yeah, June's a real close friend of mine, and we do talk, and we'll remain that way. And what went on last year, everyone knows that it was above the coach and myself, and he taught me a great deal, and not just about football, but about life and how to deal with certain problems.
Jeff George makes his first critical mistake as a Raider. He decided to underhand the ball to Ricky Dudley. He missed him by 5 yards.
Have you kicked yourself a lot this week because of the pass that you made?
You know, not really. You know, you think about, after the game, you think about plays, you go home, you think, what if I did this different? I'm a competitor on the field, and if there's one thing that might get me in trouble, I have too much confidence in my arm. And, you know, I feel that I can get the ball in no matter where the defender is.
George lofts the ball to a wide-open Tim Brown. It's going to go the distance.
I wanted to be a Raider because of the mystique, and I knew from the moment that I signed and was in Oakland in minicamp, I knew it was home, and I haven't had that family atmosphere in my first 8 years.
Your impressions when you first met and sat down with Al Davis were what?
Well, it's once again, it's the respect factor, and you know, you grew up and you see Al Davis on TV, you know, on the sidelines wearing the sweatsuits, and that's neat. You know, now I can say that, hey, that's my boss. You know, but the initial meeting with him, it was a little intimidating. You know, I'll be the first to admit that.
Did you, in fact, think about coming in wearing a white sweatsuit?
Yeah, I did, but he shocked me. He came in with a black sweatsuit, so, you know, I hadn't seen the black before, but I did. I was going to do that, and I decided against it.
Probably a good decision.
Good idea, good idea.
Jeff George once again with a new team and a new start. Let's bring in Joe Gibbs, who's in New Hampshire at a NASCAR race. And Joe, does it appear that Jeff George has started to take responsibility for the things that have happened in the past?
Well, Ahmad, I think one of the things that troubles me in this piece, there's a point in there where he says, you know, hey, it's not always the player's fault. I think Jeff George is at a point in his career where he says, look, I've been with 2 teams. I'm on my 3rd team. And believe me, I know Joe Bugle. If he can't get along with Joe Bugle, he's not going to be able to get along with anyone. So hopefully he's learned from the past. The other thing, I tell you what, he's never been with the running team. Indianapolis, when he was there, couldn't run. And certainly Atlanta's in the run and shoot. Raiders, at the risk of sounding like Mike Ditka, run the football, will you, for crying out loud? They could have helped him the other night.
Well, part of that problem is he has so much talent that you want to try to build an offense about the things that he does, and it's not running the football. But what about his relationship with June Jones?
Well, you know, they claim to have a close relationship, but something wasn't repaired from that sideline incident. June Jones lost his job. All of his assistants lost their jobs. Jeff George is in another city. This guy may not have fully grown up yet.
You know, but he has played great football so far this season, other than the one underhanded pass, and he got beat up for that one. But he has been great on the field so far. And I know I'm going to regret saying this, but I really do think that maybe Jeff George has gotten over the hump. He had a lot of things happen to him in the past couple of years. Nearly lost his father, the birth of his son, his wife's pregnant again. I think maybe he's finally grown up.
But we all agree that this is one of the more talented quarterbacks in all of football.
I think he can be special as a passer.
All right, we'll be right back.
Coming up next, we'll talk about some of the other key games today, including the emotional matchup in Foxborough between the Patriots and Bill Parcells' New York Jets.
Tobin led the Cardinals to their first win over the Dallas Cowboys in 14 tries, rallying for a dramatic victory in overtime. The winning school is Many Farms High School in Many Farms, Arizona. It will receive $5,000 in school supplies from Staples, the office superstore. The much-anticipated return of Bill Parcells to Foxborough takes place tonight. The Jets facing the Patriots. Bill Parcells had plenty of questions hurled at him this week. Here's one about Drew Bledsoe.
Will you try and make him uncomfortable?
No, I think we'll just try to let him get back there and throw 5 or 6 more touchdowns.
Joe Gibbs joins us now. Joe, it must be an axiom of football that the bigger the game, the dumber the questions get the week before.
Why did coaches get upset with the media when you got intelligent questions like that being thrown at you? I tell you what, Bill Parcells, I think, has got himself in a big mess today. I got to tell you, think about this. He's built a team with tremendous talent, great weapons. He's going to go up to their part of the country, try and beat them in their backyard, and he's given them a psychological advantage. He has left the team. They're all upset. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if Drew Bledsoe right now is in the locker room giving a pep talk, and I think Bill's in for a long day.
You know, Joe, the only question I still have about this Patriot team is their 2 wins, and they've been very big wins, have come against San Diego and Indianapolis, 2 teams who, between them, have 1 win against the New Orleans Saints. No offense to our good friend Mike Ditka down there, but not the toughest of teams. But clearly, Drew Bledsoe is a different guy. I used to think that he was the most unhappy, miserable 24-year-old kid that had $40 million in the bank that I'd ever seen in my life. But for whatever reason now, with Pete Carroll there and Bill Parcells gone, he's just a different guy, and it shows on the field.
And you know, you guys were not real big on the whole Drew Bledsoe situation in week 1 when this season began, wondering how he was going to adjust going from Bill Parcells to Pete Carroll. You must be surprised, Sam.
Well, you know, the atmosphere is good not only on the offensive side of the ball with Drew Bledsoe, but on the defensive side of the ball. Chris Slade is back and would not be back if Bill Parcells was still the coach. Just signed a new 5-year contract, so the defensive line's coming up the field. If I was Bill Parcells, Joe, I'd be watching out for the tackle-eligible play. Drew Bledsoe has 8 touchdowns to 8 different receivers. The tackle's the only guy left.
All right, surprisingly, the only 2 unbeaten teams in the NFC are Tampa Bay and Minnesota. They meet today at the Metrodome. Joe Gibbs, you can't be surprised by Tampa by now. Tony Dungy's put together a pretty good team. They've won 7 of their last 9.
Well, I think Tampa's gotten out. Their past history is haunting them, as we know. Sam's a testimony to that. And I think what Dungy did at the end of last season is kind of get things turned around. They played good late. And I tell you what, teams are motivated by their past. This team has been kicked around, and I think right now they're extremely excited. I think Tony Dungy's done a great job, and I think the fact that they're won 7 out of their last 9, including last year, I think this is a young team. I think it's got trouble at quarterback, but plays great defense, and I think they'll make a good showing today up in Minnesota.
Let's Let's talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for a minute. They win their first game at home against San Francisco, but San Francisco is without Steve Young and Jerry Rice. Then they go to Detroit and really surprise the Lions with Warrick Dunn and how good that running game was. Now they go to Minnesota, a team that has clearly struggled for the past 2 years in trying to stop the run. So you know that Tampa's going to face that 8-man front. They're going to absolutely have to stop Warrick Dunn, which means, Sam, that Trent Dilfer is going to have to make some plays today. You know him well. You were his coach. Can he do it?
Well, I know. You know, I think the coaches in Tampa have done a tremendous job with Trent Dilfer. Early on in his career, he made the mistakes. He threw the interceptions. The turnovers killed the team. Now they are limiting what he does. 150 yards average passing in the first 2 games, only 115 last week. But remember, this is another AstroTurf game. Warrick Dunn, good on AstroTurf, but Minnesota has Robert Smith, and he's averaging 8.8 per carry, and he's on AstroTurf too.
All right, Sam, a timeout here, and the NFL and NBC continues in just a moment.
Up next, we'll hear from Brett Favre of the Green Bay Packers. His conversation with Bob Costas when we continue. The NFL on NBC is brought to you by Nicoderm CQ Stop Smoking Patch. You bring a commitment, CQ brings the rest. By Pringles, so fresh, once you pop, you can't stop. And by AT&T, it's all within your reach.
The Dolphins' Dan Marino warming up at Lambeau Field as Miami prepares to meet Green Bay. For more on the Packers quarterback, we go to Bob Costas.
Ahmad, the last 2 years, Brett Favre of the Packers has led the NFL with 38 and then 39 touchdown passes. In the whole history of the league, only Dan Marino has thrown more in a single season. Yesterday, Favre told me that his opponent today, Marino, holds a record with 48 that he believes will be tougher to break than Roger Maris's 61 home runs in baseball. Here's more of my conversation from yesterday with Brett Favre.
The older you get, the wiser you become. And I really believe that.
You know what Jerry Glanville said. Here's the kind of guy you'd throw out of kindergarten. And when you were late for a picture session once and you said you'd had a car wreck, he said, you are a car wreck.
Yeah.
At that time, were those comments fair?
Oh, absolutely. You know, I have no hard feelings towards Jerry at all. Now, people around me, my grandmother all the time, at Jerry Glanville, you know, she gives me one of those. And I said, hey, you know, I wasn't playing. I was a third-string quarterback. You know, here I was running the town every night. You know, I'd come in late. I'd be the first one to leave. I didn't care.
You think about how close you came to being a nobody?
Every day I wake up, and you know, I prepare that way. And a couple of years ago, I didn't, and I'm lucky that I got traded here and things changed.
A big story in football last year was your addiction to Vicodin, the painkiller, and how that is, we hope, behind you now. But this is a brutal, violent game, and quarterbacks are especially vulnerable. What happens the next time you sustain an injury that might not put you out, but it hurts like hell? What do you do?
Well, you know, first thing we have to be smart about it. I'm not like normal people. I can't take pain medication in moderation. I know that now. And I'm also not naive enough to think that I'll go the rest of my career without getting injured. Well, if you're hurt bad enough, you have to take something. And any addictive stuff that will relieve pain, I probably will take a liking to. And I know that. So it has to be definitely under supervision. And I have to be strong enough to say, okay, I don't hurt anymore. I can back off of it.
Does it worry you? Maybe more than the prospect of injury itself? Does that worry you?
Yes, it does. You know, I think that's why I haven't taken a Vicodin in 2 years. Actually, February will be 2 years. And there's not a day goes by I don't think about it, because I don't want it to sneak back up on me. And I think the day I do forget about it and say, oh, it's behind me, is when it'll pop back up again. And here I go back on the same road I was on. So it's beneficial for me to think about it every day and how rough it was on me.
Phil Simms said recently, if nobody ever played hurt, and if there were no pain medications, you'd need a roster of 250 to make it from game 1 to game 16.
He's totally accurate. You know, I think people, in a way, realize how tough this game is. but then again, they don't. You know, it's kind of a catch-22 situation. They go, well, you know, it's football. Well, their bodies are built for that, and they work out, and they take all these supplements, and they diet right. You know, it doesn't matter. When you got 300-pound guys just bearing down on you and nailing you, 80 plays a game, your body is not built for that. I mean, it's got to give somewhere. But the reality of it is they pay you a lot of money to play hurt. And, no one's crying. That's just the way it is.
Have you ever felt fear on the field?
Oh, a lot. I think, that's what makes me a better player, and definitely a good player, is that I'm scared. We play the Dolphins tomorrow. Yeah, I'm scared of what's going to happen. I want to play well. There's a fear of losing. There's a fear of playing bad. There's a fear of getting hurt. I'm scared of a lot of things. I'm scared of the dark. I'm definitely scared of the defensive linemen bearing down on me. That's probably what makes me move around and make plays, because I don't want to stand back here and get drilled all day. And if anyone tells you they're not scared, they're probably lying.
And we'll have more of my conversation with Brett Favre at halftime. He speaks passionately and convincingly about his love for the game. Now let's go back to New York and Ahmad.
All right, thanks, Bob. The NFL on NBC continues in just a moment.
Up next, we'll hear from former Buffalo great Jim Kelly on the toughest battle, the struggle of his ailing son, Hunter.
What follows would be a difficult story no matter who the subject might be. The fact that it involves someone whose career we've tracked for 13 years and is now a colleague at NBC makes it that much more difficult. But Jim Kelly and his wife Jill feel that it's a story that needs to be told in order to benefit other families who might find themselves in a similar situation. Jim's son, Hunter, born 7 months ago today on Valentine's Day, has a rare affliction called Krabbe's, a degenerative disease that affects motor skills and which ultimately proves fatal. Here now, the Kellys tell their story.
Do you love Hunter?
I love Hunter Boy.
Aaron right now is the shining star to me, because I come home, it's what everybody always told you it was going to be like when your daughter runs down the hallway, or she runs down yelling, "Daddy, Daddy, Daddy."
Where's Daddy? Let's go find him. Okay, let's go find him.
That melts my heart.
Did you count it? Did you count?
The light that shines with me is when I come home and my daughter's right there, and then when I am able to hold my son. Everybody prays and hopes that things will go, perfect all the time. Things don't, but you learn to accept them, you learn to go on, and you grow from it. Here we had a daughter that was very healthy, to a child that was diagnosed with an illness, a child that was born on your birthday, a son that you always have wanted, to find out that he might not live past the age of 2. It's hard to swallow, but both my wife and myself have accepted it, and we've learned that we have to give him the best days of his life now, because we don't know when those days are going to come to a halt. We take a deep breath and pray every day that while he's here, that he is pain-free, because it's very difficult to see any child in this much pain. My brother Danny had a son born 11 days before my son, and everything was normal the first couple months. But after a while, there's things that his son was doing that mine wasn't doing, as far as, reaching for toys and, being able to smile. My son smiled at the beginning a little bit, and all of a sudden, gradually it started disappearing. And all of a sudden, my son became very stiff. We found out that he suffered from leukodystrophy and a disease called Krabbe's. And the illness is fatal. Majority of children don't live past the age of 2, and that's something that it's hard for us to accept.
I've learned to
number one, appreciate time. I appreciate my faith in God. Appreciate my spouse, Jim. Appreciate Aaron and Hunter. And most importantly, I've learned what unconditional love, true unconditional love, is all about.
I always thought there was one level of toughness, one level of courage to be able to come back after disappointing losses in Super Bowls, for example. But my wife has taken that courage, that toughness, one step further. The toughness that they talked about that I had on the football field away from the game, it's unmatched. Her toughness is within. The size of her heart, the determination that she's going to give Hunter every single ounce of energy she has is something that I look at and I bow to.
I refuse, to put anything before caring for Hunter and Aaron, of course. Our most important goal as far as Hunter is concerned for Jim and I is that, he's a happy little guy, because there's nothing that makes me happier than being with him. I mean, I am completely 100% blessed with the time that I'd have with him.
When you're in the limelight, when you're a celebrity, and something tragic happens like this, automatically everybody feels sorry for you. Everybody says, well, why did it happen to him? All the money he's raised for the charities, all the things that he's done. I don't want anybody to feel sorry for me. We want people to be more aware of that. You look across the dinner table, you look in the back seat of your car, you look at the children around you, look at your son, your daughter, look at your wife. Thank God for what you have. It's probably too late to help our son, but while he's there, we're going to give him every last moment of our love, our peace, whatever we can give him, we're going to give him right now, however long that may be. But for down the road, if there's a family that we can help to make their child have as normal life as possible, we know that it was all worthwhile.
Jim and Jill have received tremendous support from all over the country, and for that they are most appreciative. And Jim wanted to extend a special thanks to his mother-in-law, Jackie Wagner, for her tireless efforts. If you'd like more information, write the Kelly for Kids Foundation, Gateway Park, Suite 12, Buffalo, New York, or call 716-892-5201.
The Pick of the Week is brought to you by American Honda, maker of fine quality automobiles, motorcycles, and power equipment. Everyone except Will McDonough was a winner last week, so Chris Collinsworth has the lead. With this week's picks, here's Greg Gumbel.
And there's a look at the picks for this week. Jeff George's return to Atlanta, a very popular choice for half of us. We will see you at halftime. The NFL on NBC continues after these messages from your local station.
Unique and enjoyable places to experience life in the NFL. They start early. How good is it? Even general manager Carl Peterson is on hand. All Peterson and some of his closest friends ready for the Chiefs and their home opener. As this afternoon, they face the Buffalo Bills. Hi, everybody. Along with James Lofton, I'm Mike Green. It really is truly one of the most wonderful places to watch an NFL game, except if you're an opponent. You're in that position. This is a tough place to play.
Well, I'm not the opponent today, but for the Bills, it is a tough place to play, and that's why you didn't see any of them wandering the parking lot before the ball game.
As for the fans, they're going to have to get used to the new offense. They didn't just change the offense here in Kansas City. They did a complete overhaul.
Yeah, but change was necessary. This is an offense that would clunk down the field. Steve Bono is gone. Marcus Allen is now the teacher for Greg Hill. But Elvis Gerbach is the biggest change in this offense. He's the guy who they really believe who can make things happen.
Now, Buffalo did not make the same kind of changes, but they made one key change at quarterback. The Jim Kelly era is now over. Todd Collins is the starter. How's he progressing?
Well, he's progressing well, but this is going to be another tough test. For Todd Collins today, he has to battle not only the Kansas City Chiefs, but the crowd noise that you will hear all day long.
This game a rematch of the last game of the 96 regular season. In Buffalo, the Bills beat the Chiefs to knock them out of the playoffs. Opening kickoff next. .77 degrees, humid day in Kansas City. Both teams 1-1, and they are certainly ready to welcome their Chiefs home after opening up the season with 2 road games, including that thriller in Oakland, the last-second victory over the Raiders.
Yeah, but most of the fans here admit that they had gone to sleep early because the Chiefs look like they're out of that ball game on Monday night.
Nobody's sleeping so far this afternoon as Kansas City will kick off. Pete Stoyanovich. Back deep, Eric Moles and Tim Tyndale. A low kick. Moles at the 8. Moles across the 30 and taken down at about the 32. Dale Carter on the tackle. And let's look at our starting lineups. Todd Collins, the other Michigan quarterback starting today, his 7th career start. And the key for him, of course, is the offensive line. They need to play well. Fina and Brown on the left side, Ostrowski for the injured Dusty Ziegler, Lucina and Lucci on the right side. Thurman Thomas in his 10th year, Reed and Early, the wide receivers, the double tight ends, including Jay Riemersma, who's becoming a favorite receiver of Mr. Collins. Off the ball on the 32, and movement flags already. Lonnie Johnson appeared to move, and this one will go against Buffalo.
False start. Number 84 offense, moving prior to the snap, 5-yard penalty, first down.
Tom White in his 8th year as an NFL referee, 9th year in the league. Marv Levy at 72 years old. Very proud of his team, bouncing back from the 10-0 deficit to beat the Jets last week in New York. Riemersma in motion. The 2 tight end set. Collins quick drop, fires, complete. Andre Reed up to about the 36. A gain of about 4. Now the Kansas City defense and some changes with injuries. The front 3, Booker, the veteran Phillips, and Browning. Helen McDaniel starting for the injured Derek Thomas, Wooden, the former Seahawk. And also a change at left quarterback, Mark McMillan starting for Dale Carter. Carter has an ankle injury. He was already in on special teams and will play a little bit. Derek Thomas, of course, declared inactive earlier with the tricep injury. He really wanted to play, so obviously he's in a lot of pain. 2nd and 6. Thurman Thomas, his first carry, stumbles a bit and loses yardage. Tackle Anthony Davis. And Davis and his linebacking crew are going to have to pick up the slack without Thomas. Thomas, who has been playing with one arm. Certainly that was the case last week in Oakland.
And the Buffalo coaches, they realize how great Derek Thomas is. But really, he hadn't been the player that he had been in the past, and he needed to rest and get that arm well. It's going to take a while.
3rd and 7. Collins on a play fake, going for Moles and overthrows him. Good coverage from Dale Carter, and Buffalo will have to punt. Not the start that Marv Levy would have liked for the Buffalo Bills, a 3-and-out series.
One of the big complaints of the no-huddle offense that Dan Hennings replaced was they were off the field too quickly, and the defense consequently had to play too many plays.
Tamarek Vanover, a great return man, but had 2 fumbles last week in Oakland. He is back. Chris Moore on the punt. Moore, the veteran. Beautiful high kick. Vanover backtracks to the 16 and stumbles. And who else but Steve Tasker, one of the finest special teams players in the history of the NFL. A 49-yard punt, and that brings on Elvis Grbac, just his 12th career start and his first regular season game here at Arrowhead. The offensive line, the tackle's the one to watch today. Criswell on the left side has Bruce Smith to deal with. Glenn Parker, the former Bill, an emotional day for him. Hobson, the tight end, Perman Rison, the wideouts, Anders, the underrated fullback, and Greg Hill, who is now the man, with Marcus Allen as a backup. Ball on the 18 for Kansas City. They go to Greg Hill, and Hill hit immediately right about at the line of scrimmage. Chris Spielman on the tackle. And the Buffalo defense, what a performance they had last week. Bruce Smith said one of the most memorable he's ever seen. Hanson in Washington underrated with Smith there. Pop coming back strong this year with Spielman, Covington, and a steady Sam Rogers. One change, Eric Smedley starting in place of Henry Jones, who's out. Thomas Smith, a future Pro Bowler. And Bryce Pop, which was a tough year last season with the groin injury, but a huge week against the Jets last Sunday. Grbac his first throw on the backfield. Anders has plenty of room. Got the first down and more. Finally run out of bounds by Kurt Schulz. And Kimball Anders, one of the best receiving fullbacks in the NFL. Some say it's him and Larry Sanders. He gets a big game.
But most of the guys around here in Kansas City would tell you that Kimball Anders really had been the catalyst for this ball club the last couple of years. It's funny when you think about Kimball Anders, think about him coming out of the backfield. He said that he actually learned to block the last 3 years in the league, this being his 7th year, and he's finally getting the finer points of the game down.
And he says he's very proud of his improvement in that area. Greg Hill on the call. A little bit of a hold. Turns up to about the 41. Gain of about 3.
That time, Kimball Anders was the lead blocker. He saw put a nice block on the guy. Kimball Anders played in that run-and-shoot offense while he was at the University of Houston. And he jokingly says he's actually the guy who made Andre Ware and turned him into the Heisman Trophy candidate. When Anders was there, not only did he play running back, occasionally he would line up as an inside slot receiver. So no wonder that his receiving skills are so promising.
If there is such a thing, James, he's an underrated Pro Bowler. I know that's hard to say when he gets the recognition from the peers, but many people around the country unaware of just how good he can be. Hill has some blocking ahead of him. Breaks one tackle and then knocked down Bruce Smith on the snap. Eric Smedley slowed him down just a bit.
You know, it's okay to be an underrated Pro Bowler as long as you're not an underpaid Pro Bowler.
He'll make sure of that. But a very humble but confident. Not in an arrogant sort of way. Very confident in his abilities. As we see Bruce Smith, who continues just to be a dominant force.
As Greg Hill kind of adds a spark to this ball club, replacing Marcus Allen this year. He provides a little more speed than obviously Marcus Allen would have, but in third down situations and toward the goal line, they like to bring Marcus Allen in the ball game.
Allen in motion on the 3rd and 2. The play fake, they go complete to Popson, the tight end. Spielman wraps him around, but a first down for Kansas City as they get into Buffalo territory. This one of the key acquisitions for Kansas City. So much talked about the wide receivers. The tight end was the position they desperately needed to upgrade.
Well, with so many things happening on the football field, Ted Popson right there comes down, he starts the block, everything goes the other way. Bryce Pop has the quarterback, but you really have to commit to the guy and almost take him to the ground as you would an option quarterback in the wishbone or something like that.
Greg Hill again. This time has a nice hold. Spielman brings him down. But not before a pickup of about 6. Sam Rogers also in on the tackle. And Greg Hill has been waiting for this season. Had the strong first game in terms of running. Didn't get the ball as much. Didn't get going as much last week.
One thing you'd like to do with Bruce Smith is run right at him. That time he gets double teamed by Criswell and Popson. And 2 guys blocking Bruce Smith means that somebody should be able to come up and clean up that play a lot earlier for the Bills.
So Hill and Allen switch once again. 2nd and 4 for Kansas City. Good start for their offense over the middle. Dana Hughes on the reception. Another Chiefs first down. Hughes playing with Lake Dawson out with the knee injury.
We talked about Bruce Smith being double teamed on the run play. Occasionally, Bruce Smith will tell you all the time, I'm double teamed on pass blocking. It's just something that he has learned to fight through his whole career. And every once in a while, when you single this guy up, that's when he gets those sacks.
Very difficult to stop Bruce Smith even at the age of 34. Kimball Anders taken down from behind. Rogers on another tackle, but not before Anders gets about 5. And the Chiefs mixing it up nice.
What you're talking about, the Chiefs mixing it up, run here, play action here, bootleg, a lot of variety from Paul Hackett so far in the passing game. Paul Hackett is one of the guys who was there when the West Coast offense kind of got started, and he traces it back to Sid Gilman, Bill Walsh, and Ken Anderson, who's the quarterback for the Cincinnati Bengals. He said what it really is, not the routes and all that, but teaching the quarterback where to go with the football in the 3rd and 4th reads.
The 2 tight ends split out wide on this time, intended for Tony Gonzalez. Incomplete. Scholes on the coverage. And Gonzalez, their draft pick out of Cal, who they certainly have high hopes for.
Bruce Smith here at the top of your screen. Once in a while, single coverage, but when you get single coverage, guys better grab on tight. But as long as you keep those hands inside the frame, the officials will not call holding. Now, Bruce Smith may go back and have a conversation with one of the gentlemen in the black and white, but that's not a holding call.
And when you're a veteran, they are conversations. They're no longer screaming matches. You have that maturity level about you. 3rd down for Gerbeck. Looks downfield. Nobody's open, and wisely throws it away. Good coverage from the Bills secondary. And Stoyanovich will come on.
Bryce Bopp applying the pressure late there. But the one thing about that, it was more coverage than pressure. They got to the quarterback late, but because the guys down the field were able to do their work.
That's Stoyanovich this year. He's coming off the '96 season, one of his worst in his career. This one a 46-yarder. His longest last season was just 45. Good snap, low kick. But it goes through.
Ugly kick.
Very ugly. Not an ugly start, though, as the Chiefs get on the board first. 3-0.
The NFL on NBC is brought to you by Malibu, Motor Trend 1997 Car of the Year, the brand spanking new Malibu, genuine Chevrolet. By MCI, is this a great time or what? By Sears Auto Center, we keep you rolling. And by Northwestern Mutual Life. Have you heard from the Quiet Company?
Marty Schottenheimer in his 9th season with the Chiefs, a 7th-round pick of the Bills. Way back in '65, he was a linebacker with the Bills. The scouting report on Marty was, he'll kill you if he could get to you, but he can't get to you. Too slow.
Very slow. And he's slower now.
Eric Moulds at the 5. Moulds with a nice run up near the 30-yard line. Troy Dumas on the stop. And Buffalo will come out once again, their second position. They trail 3-0 here early in the first.
This is the NFL on NBC.
There's Derek Thomas, the man who is absent from the Kansas City Chiefs lineup today. Got that injury kind of tussling with William Rope at the beginning of training camp. Bothered him all along. He wears a brace that just doesn't do the job. He just has to let it get better. Time will heal it.
The tricep really hurting him as Thurman Thomas and Todd Collins with a bit of a mix-up. Vaughn Bucker on the tackle. And right now, let's go to New York. Get an update from Greg Gumbel. Greg?
All right, Mike, and we'll take you to the Meadowlands where on Baltimore's first possession, quarterback Vinny Testaverde finds who's got Derek Alexander. 22 yards and a touchdown with the extra point. The Ravens with a 7-0 lead on the Giants, Mike.
2nd and 8 after the broken play. Again, Thurman Thomas with quick flag. Some extra pushing and shoving. Although McDaniels then wraps his arms around Lonnie Johnson. A little bear hug.
Yeah, a big bear hug from a guy that size.
False start. Number 70, offense, moving prior to the snap. It's a 5-yard penalty. Second down.
The bad thing about those penalties that we've had so far on Lonnie Johnson and John Fina is the crowd has not gotten into this yet. If you think it's loud and you're on the field now, just wait. And if this crowd thinks that they can affect the Buffalo Bills offense, they will get louder and louder. You see Marv yelling there from the sideline. No, they can't even hear him, but this crowd is going to heat up.
They exploded during the opening introductions here on 2nd and 13. Maybe a couple of yards there. Antoine Smith, their rookie out of Houston, the first-round draft pick. And you look at some of the difficult places to play, and as we said at the top, you've played here a number of times.
And when the leaves are rustling, and you can hear that, you know you've got pretty good hearing. But right here, 116, and right above that, the pain threshold is when your ears start to hurt. When you get behind, they get loud, your whole body starts to hurt.
That average office, though, forget it. Bulls. Eric Moulds, no, he's out of bounds. Mark McMillan on the coverage.
McMillan may only be 5'7", and the first thought that you have when you see this guy is we can throw over the top of him. He has a good vertical. Boy, that's real close to being in bounds. I think if an older number 80 had done that, might have gotten the call. That time, Eric Moulds doesn't get the good call from the official.
Tamara Vanover back once again. Almost a great catch from Moulds. And a high but short kick from Chris Moore. Vanover, fair catch of the 35 at a penalty marker. It is thrown at about the 48-yard line. And a couple more down the other side of the field. And a minute again from Tom White, former halfback in high school back in Philadelphia where he grew up. They make halfbacks a little bit better than bigger than Mr. White these days.
He was a single wing halfback. now he's got a double wing around the middle.
He and his crew have been a little busy here in the first quarter.
I think we have a couple of fouls here. Tasker gets mugged.
Holding number 23, receiving team during the kick. That penalty would be enforced. First down, timeout.
There's the guilty party right there, Mr. Johnson. You know, if that was a breakaway jersey, Tasker would be able to get out of the grip of those guys.
The rookie Clyde Johnson, free agent from Kansas State, with a no-no. That's Marty Schottenheimer, what makes a good quarterback, and he'll say competitiveness. He says Elway, Namath, Montana, that's what made them so great. He feels Elvis Gerbach has that same competitive level. And I'm not going to put him in that category, but competitiveness, yes.
But I think that Marty Schottenheimer sees a lot of his own personal qualities in Elvis Gerbach.
Greg Hill on the handoff. Spielman brings him down after a couple of yards. Damian Covington on the tackle as well.
Now, if they thought they were getting another 49er retread, it's not DeBerg, it's not Montana, it's not Bono. Check the birth certificate. 27 years of age, a lot younger than the retreads they got from 49ers in previous years.
Retreads, youngest starting quarterback for the Chiefs since 1984. There are other adjectives to describe the likes of Montana.
Well, I wouldn't talk about Joe.
On second down, and he looked a little like Jeff George on that one from last week in Oakland. Bruce Smith with the pressure. Of course, George threw that key interception when he was in the grasp of Anthony Davis. That one perhaps not as desperate.
There you have a little play action fake, and you're looking downfield thinking that you have time to throw the ball, and here comes Mr. Smith grabbing at your toes.
Two tight ends in, Hobson and Gonzalez. Smith says he gets as much enjoyment out of stopping the run as he does rushing the quarterback. I have a feeling there's a little bit more enjoyment.
He doesn't make as much money stopping the run.
Nope. 3rd and 6. Gerbach going down for Perryman. Broken up by Marlon Turner. Perryman with his first start, of course, had the hamstring throughout training camp. These two still trying to get in sync.
But nice touch on the throw from Elvis Gerbach. Perryman has a chance to catch this ball. A lot of people forget that Brett Perryman's only 5'9". When he played with Herman Moore is about 6'4", and Perryman's this little guy, and Perryman does all the work, and Moore gets all the money, so Perryman ends up in Kansas City.
Tasker back, Louis Aguiar, who has never had a punt blocked in his NFL career, gets off just a beautiful punt. Tasker now going to pick it up. Stop, and then knocked down at a flag. Dana Hughes slowed him down. Tony Richardson then on the tackle. But a penalty marker, a 60-yard punt from Aguiar.
Tasker hoping that ball, once it hit the turf, would just take off and roll toward the end zone, but Aguiar obviously had a little back spin on the ball.
We were watching him punt before the game, and he had a number of those where the back spin was working. Tasker made the right play, or so it appeared.
Illegal block in the back. Number 51 during the return. Half the distance. That penalty will be enforced. Timeout.
Aguiar gets the crowd fired up. Touchdown, Louis Aguiar. Stojanovich's 46-yard field goal, the only score thus far, with Buffalo offense struggling to get going. And of course, for the Chiefs, Eric Thomas out with a tricep injury. Tough shoes to fill for Pella McDaniels, who's in his 5th year out of Oregon State. When he's healthy, an excellent pass rusher. You can bet Thomas going to help him out. Thomas in the proper attire. There's a required dress code if you're a fan here.
He looks like he's ready to go. He's dressed in red. Sleeves cut off.
They'll start at their own 10. Thurman Thomas hit, gets away, and then wrapped up. The second-year man, Jerome Woods. And of course, you can't get your fill of NFL football on Sundays. Follow the NFL season online at NBCSports.com. Now this week, analyze Brett Favre and Dan Marino. Compare the two quarterbacks. Any thoughts there, Mr. Lofton?
Well, Marino's older.
That's very astute. It's all at NBCSports.com. 2nd and 11. Collins, again, doesn't have anyone to throw to. And it's finally taken out at about the 12. Anthony Davis brings him down. And this is a learning experience for Mr. Collins.
Yeah, and learning is exactly the word for it. Because at the tail end of that play, most quarterbacks, as they get up in age, they learn that baseball slide. That was more of just a sideways tumble to Todd Collins.
That's a single A ball slide. 3rd and 8. Collins just 25 years old. Collins rolling out. Again in pursuit. And has to throw it away. Pella McDaniels breathing down his neck. 4th down again for Buffalo.
The lone instant that the offensive linemen have to hesitate because they're not sure if they hear the quarterback or the fans yelling, it's that one instant that the defensive line gains an advantage. I like to call when you come in places like Arrowhead or even in Rich Stadium or Dome Stadium, you get what you call crowd sack, where the noise inhibits the offensive line from moving early.
Chris Moore, Vanover at his own 34. Gets hit hard at the 42. Brought down in a hurry. Ethan Albright on the tackle, along with Tim Tyndale. Chiefs with the ball back. Mark Vanover shaken up on that last punt return. Last year, a nightmare in terms of injuries for him. This one does not appear to be serious, but Vanover gingerly walks to the sideline. And good field position for Gerbach and the Chiefs at their own 42. They lead 3-0. A little over 3.5 remaining in this first quarter. Tony Richardson at the fullback, along with Greg Hill. Perriman and Rison. This one goes to Andre Rison, his first reception of the afternoon. Talk about ovations. Rison got a thunderous ovation after that exhilarating catch to beat the Raiders on Monday night.
Well, 6 teams in, 9 seasons, 4 teams in 14 months. He used to be known as Bad Moon Rison. This will be the last time that we refer to him as that, because I'm now just Andre Rison. He also has another nickname, Spider-Man. He wants him to play the Spider-Man music every time he catches a pass. But the director in the stadium didn't have the Spider-Man music.
Not just yet. 2nd and 4. Gerbach fires downfield. Rison again. And he runs out of bounds at the 18. They'll find Spider-Man in a hurry who plays like that. 34-yard pickup.
Play action fake, pulls the linebackers up right there. All of a sudden, a huge passing lane for him to throw to. There's Andre Rison. See Eric Smedley slip, fall down. He's the guy who might have been able to make the tackle. Andre Rison, very veteran moves in getting out of bounds. Don't take any additional punishment.
Rison says one of the key reasons he came to Kansas City is that Marty Schottenheimer told him the slate is wiped clean here.
No, it's the only job offer that he had.
Well, that's what he says. Hill hit behind the line of scrimmage. Sam Rogers with another play. Rogers very aggressive early on as they lose a couple on that one.
Well, Wade Phillips, the defensive coordinator for the Buffalo Bills. The 3-4 defense, Carolina, Pittsburgh, they both employ the 3-4, but they run the zone blitzes out of it. Buffalo blitzes just as much, but the difference between the zone blitz and what Wade Phillips like to do, he doesn't drop the lineman back in coverage. He says a guy that big can't make the play on the ball.
Well, his defense coming through for him certainly last week. Gerbach has the tight end, Tony Gonzalez. Smedley drags him down at about the 13. Gonzalez, one of those rookies, he's a first rounder that they feel has special potential.
I saw Gonzalez on the field. Now, I mentioned to him that NBA camps are going to start up soon, and he kind of laughed. He said, no, this is where I need to be. Tony Gonzalez played basketball while he was at the University of California. What's interesting, for a tight end, it usually takes a while to develop. The guys get drafted early on potential. He's a guy who left college early and still got drafted in the first round.
Terrific receiver on 3rd and 6. Gerbach under pressure for Rogers and taken down. Sam Rogers, sensational play.
Well, one of the questions on Elvis Gerbach at 6'6" is mobility. That's what you lose when a guy is that big. Gets him, see the up and under move coming right under there. Elvis Gerbach sees it, tries to turn and twist away. It just barely catches the front of his right foot and drags him down to the turf.
And Sam Rogers, who doesn't get the publicity of the Bryce Pops and the Chris Spielman, but a very steady player, has forced Stojanovic for another long field goal. This one from just beyond 45 yards. He had a 46-yarder earlier. And this one, much prettier. Same result. Stojanovic perfect on the season now at 6 for 6, and the Chiefs with 6 points.
Stojanovic mentioned last year when he was having his, quote, slump. For his career, he's around 79%. Last year, only 70%. He said, I know it's like a golf swing. I know there's something in my swing that I need to perfect and fine-tune, and I think it's taken him just another year to get it on track.
Stojanovic now in his 9th year. Marty Schottenheimer wanted to see him not only improve on the field goals this season, but on kickoffs as well. And right now, let's go to New York. Greg Gumbel with another update. Greg?
All right, Mike, in Atlanta, a lot of pressure on former Falcons quarterback Jeff George coming back in a Raider uniform, but look who helps take the pressure off. Napoleon Kaufman. When all is said and done, this is a 61-yard touchdown run from scrimmage. It wipes out a 7-0 Atlanta lead, and with the extra point, the Raiders pull even at 7-all in the first quarter. Mike?
Greg, thank you. Oakland trying to bounce back from that disheartening loss to the Chiefs. Buffalo, trying to get things going offensively. It's been a long time since anyone but Jim Kelly was the quarterback. They haven't made a lot of changes at that position.
No, they haven't, nor have they had to. Jim Kelly, really the only starter. Frank Reich got to fill in for a few ball games over the last, 13 seasons. But Jim Kelly, week in and week out, was there. And really, the question came up, should Jim Kelly stay around and be the backup quarterback? Well, that's not Kelly's mentality, nor would it have been good for the mental health of Todd Collins to have Jim Kelly not peering over his shoulder, but every incompletion, every interception, to have to return to the sideline and talk to Jim Kelly.
Stoyanovich with the kickoff. Holds at the 7. Puts back in and tied up at about the 23. Another flag on the play.
Now, there might be another flag on the play, but the one thing that you don't want from a kickoff return man is a guy who's going to stop and start. You have to have the ability to hit that hole at full speed. Bruce DeHaven, the special teams coach, will come to him and say, you've got to find the hole. There has to be a seam in there somewhere. You need to hit it at full speed.
Holding, number 58, during the return, 10-yard penalty, first down.
Marlo Perry, and for the second straight possession, a penalty on the return, has put them well back in their own territory. They'll start at their own 13 this time.
And it's not what Elvis Gerbach needs to get this team on track with the prospect of having to go 87 yards to get a touchdown.
And the Arrowhead Crazies trying to get their defense going again. Collins on a play fake, looks downfield, fires Andre Reed. Just a little too far ahead. Reed made as good an effort as you can.
Yeah, a great effort by Andre Reed. A good but not a perfect throw by Todd Collins. He needs a little more air under that ball to give Andre Reed the chance to try and go get it. The pass comes out a little flat, and it should actually be a little closer to the sideline. You see Andre Reed having to ankle in at the last minute to get that pass. I think that Mark Millen has been the guy who has been targeted. It's the guy we're going to go after.
No question. McMillan, as we mentioned, just 5'7". Dale Carter's battling an ankle injury, so he's been in and out early here in the first quarter.
When was the last time you were 5'7"?
That's a very good question.
I think it was 8th grade.
I'm in high school now. 2nd and 10. Collins again. Fires. Quinn Early. Tough catch in traffic. And good for a Buffalo first down. Reggie Tung brings him down. And Early with just his 2nd catch of the season.
Yeah, but Quinn Early is a mature enough player not to have gotten caught up in the fact that, Andre Reed has 12 receptions. I have 1 reception. He realizes that this is a team game. It's really about doing the work to help complement each other. And Andre Reed is the type of guy who's going to play all out. So is Quinn Early, regardless of how many passes you throw to him during the course of a ball game.
Early is 10th here in the league. Had a TD reception last week. And the Bills on first down. Collins under some pressure. Jay Reavers in the area. Donnie Edwards was right behind him, but Collins feeling the heat once again. And the offensive line, that without question, is the key for this offense this year. Collins, you want the maturity, but he needs help from the line.
Yeah, the offensive line did their job, but in addition to that, you get the extra blocker here and the extra blocker there. Those guys stay in, so consequently, there are only 3 guys in the pattern. You rush 4, you send out 3. By addition and subtraction, you have 7 to cover 3. It's pretty tough to get guys open. You only have 3 receivers in the route.
Dan Henning with the 2 tight end set frequently to help with the protection. Collins on 2nd and 10. And again with a funny slide. James Hasty came up to greet him along with Tom Bart. And that will end the first quarter. Bills offense struggling. Chiefs defense without Derek Thomas playing very well. Kansas City with the first quarter lead.
The Buffalo Bills are trying to do some new things on offense. On this play, they only initially send the 2 wide receivers out in the pattern. And I'm watching Andre Reed, I'm watching Quinn Early, but it's like when your wife brings home that new dress, she wants you to take a look at it, and you tell her, it doesn't really fit you quite well, honey.
You don't tell her it doesn't fit well. 3rd and 14. Collins fires. Eric Moles, did he get it? Yes, a reception and a first down up at about the 38-yard line. And once again, the Bills going at Mark McMillan.
But as far as Eric Moulds is concerned, the official on the other side is his buddy, because he called that one inbounds. The official on this side is not his buddy. Does he have him inbounds? He reaches out very nicely. 1, 2, nice little dotting of the toes there. I love it when the guys kind of tap their toes. It shows they've been watching a lot of old film.
Moulds, the first-round pick last year, they feel he's ready to explode. Antoine Smith, the first-round pick this year, cut down at the line of scrimmage, maybe a yard. John Browning on the stop.
And Dan Henning's offense, the one thing that he would like to be able to do is to control the line of scrimmage and run the football. These Buffalo Bill linemen were actually all selected in the draft when this was a no-huddle attack. More passing put in. So what he has to do is reshape and mold these guys into a unit that comes off the ball, that runs and turns the corner, where they can get some good gains running the football.
They feel it'll take a little time. 2nd and 8. Collins complete up to about the 46. The tight end Lonnie Johnson. And he's a couple of yards shy of the first down.
Yeah, Lonnie Johnson is open immediately in this route. The one thing that I don't like at the tail end of the play, Lonnie Johnson slips down ever so slightly. Now, I was on the turf before the game started. It's not real tight. It's a little loose. See his feet go out from under him. Guys have to wear longer cleats. Longer cleats are tougher on your feet. You get blisters on the bottom of your foot. Guys don't like to wear them. But you don't want to be out there all day slipping, especially when you're past run blocking. It's even tougher.
3rd and 1. Antoine Smith, he didn't get it. Now the Bills, of course, signaling, but it does not appear.
He wasn't even close that time, and they ran at Lonnie Johnson, the tight end, on the left side. And I still contend that if he were to put in some long cleats, right here, Lonnie Johnson, he gets pushed backwards. And I have to believe it's not because the guy over him, McDaniels, is big and strong, but because he doesn't have the cleats under him that can dig into that turf and help him push that guy off the line of scrimmage.
Plus, on the previous play, if he has those long cleats, he gets the first down.
Yeah, maybe some high-top black shoes would help, too.
Chris Moore. And a fair catch ball by Vanover at the 16-yard line. So the Chiefs defense, once again, solid work from them. Kansas City leads 6-0.
The NFL on NBC is brought to you by the new Dodge. It's about change. By Staples, the office superstore. By Coors Light, proud partner of the John Wayne Cancer Institute and their search for a cure. And by Gateway 2000, personalized computers shipped factory direct.
They're out in force early at Arrowhead. Marty Schottenheimer glad to be home after the 2 road games to start the season.
Now, Marty told us yesterday that on 1st down and 2nd down, I'm not wearing the headset because the coordinators yell too much. Paul Hackett and Gunther Cunningham, the defensive coordinator.
Gerbach intended for Hill, just threw a little high. He feels it's just too distracting. Now on key plays, he'll put it back on.
Was that a key play, or was he like just listening to the radio?
I don't know if it was a key play, but he, as you know, Gunther Cunningham, the defensive coordinator, one of the most emotional coaches that you'll come across.
Well, I would also have to think that coming out of this territory would be pretty key, and Marty Schottenheimer would want to have the headset on. So maybe this is a key part of the field for him to listen to the calls.
This time Hill on the ground, doesn't have a lot of room, and brought down by a host of Bills. More injury news from Buffalo. Jeff Burris, hamstring problem. He's done, apparently, for the rest of the game.
Marlon Kerner, number 46, is his replacement. Kerner had a pickoff in week 1 against the Vikings, but Jeff Burris, that's a big loss because you look at this tandem of Thomas Smith and Jeff Burris, and normally you don't have a guy who you can really say, okay, we're going to go after him. I would think that Kerner now will come into the focus of Elvis Gerbach.
Kerner, 3rd-year man for Ohio State. A lot of feel he could start for a lot of teams. Gerbach, incomplete. Risen was open. Thomas Smith, one of the most underrated defensive backs in the NFL on the coverage there. And fourth down.
Yeah, Rison is open coming out of the break, but really the pressure comes in the secondary. Rison runs a hook, and you're expecting that ball kind of on your inside shoulder. He takes a tumble.
Where's his cleats? How long are his
those cleats? Those are the little tiny cleats that he has. Those make your feet feel good like hush puppies, but not good for cutting.
So Tasker on once again. Aguiar, low, short kick. And Tasker's going to just let it roll out. Bills will take over at their own 31. Aguiar with a 50-yard punt. Buffalo still looking for the offense to get going. Chiefs and an eligible lineman downfield on the punt, so they'll do it again. Greg Minuski, the culprit. Aguiar, another short kick. Tasker's going to let it bounce again. And the Bills will get extra yards on that penalty. 46-yard punt from Louis Aguiar.
Steve Tasker from nearby Leota, Kansas, had to get 87 tickets for this ball game. He said with his salary when he first broke into the league, he didn't make enough in a week to buy 87 tickets. You know, he realizes that he's getting toward the twilight of his career. He and his wife Sarah have 4 children, and he brought his 2 oldest boys along to this game, so they're part of that throng of the 87 tickets that he had to pay for it. 87 times what? About 40 bucks?
That's big money.
That's big money. But when you go to 7 Pro Bowls, you have enough money to afford 87 seats.
There's a little extra, and we talked to him at the lobby where the Bills were staying, the hotel lobby. It was like the lobby was a family reunion.
It certainly was, and there he's talking to special teams coach Bruce DeHaven, this guy right there. Bruce DeHaven has the kind of the blessing from Marv Levy that this team is broken up into 3 phases, not offense and defense, but really 3 equal phases: offense, defense, and special teams. And you take a guy like Steve Tasker and also Mark Pike, who's there to the left of the screen, and they are both components of this team. They're on this team for their special teams play, not for what they bring to this team offensively or defensively. And it's a credit to Marv Levy that he's been able to build such a strong special team core of this team.
Last year, the Bills second in the NFL in punt coverage, third in the NFL in kickoff coverage. And Tasker not only a punt returner, but he's always the first one downfield. One of the Bills kicking, and he's now 35 years old. His 13th year in the league out of Northwestern.
And he's sneaky fast. You know, a lot of guys will look at Steve Tasker and they don't think speed demon, but when he was a high schooler, he was a state champion in the 100 and 200 meters.
And we were talking about this last week, some of the all-time great. He's certainly, you have to say, top 5 all-time special teams players. You put him in there?
Yeah, without a doubt. We saw one of them last week playing for the Baltimore Ravens, Benny Thompson, who is a bigger type of special teams player. Steve Tasker, the thing that burns a lot of guys when they play against him is they go, this guy's not big. He should be the PR guy instead of the special teams Pro Bowl guy.
Now it's time for the Bills offense to try and get in gear. Todd Collins on first down. Quick drop, Thurman Thomas. And Thomas, not a lot of room. Maybe gets a yard. Donnie Edwards on the tackle.
You know, it's interesting. Thurman Thomas was talking about the dynamics of how the team has changed since Jim Kelly's been gone out of the lineup. And now, you know, obviously they huddle up every play. But he says he's become more of a vocal leader. Todd Collins is the guy who just gets in and calls the play and everybody go about their business. But Thurman Thomas says, I have to become more vocal and speak out and push guys. That's my new role.
2nd and 8. Collins hit as he throws. Andre Reed. Good for a first down in Kansas City territory. Mark McMillan again on the coverage.
He was tackled by Mark McMillan. You know, one of the problems with being a running back with a team that likes to bring multiple people, you have to pick up the blitz. Thurman Thomas takes the fake, gets just enough of Terry Wooden so that Todd Collins has enough time to step up and throw the strike to Andre Reed.
Reed with his 2nd reception leads the team with 14. Thomas and Antoine Smith splitting duties. Thomas on the field now on 1st and 10. Thurman Thomas to call. Hit hard. Terry Wooden gets him on the rebound. Wooden, the former Seahawk. And once again, let's go to New York and get another update from Greg Gumbel.
All
drive, Mike, in Green Bay. It has taken the Packers until early in the second quarter to get on the scoreboard. They do it here. Brett Favre to Antonio Freeman, 2-yard touchdown with the extra point. The Pack up on the Dolphins, 7-6. Back to Kansas City. Mike and James.
Thanks, Greg. Pack finding out it's not easy being the hunted.
A 2-yard touchdown pass. It used to be you had one guy who could just dive over the top from 2 yards now. But if you're going to throw 50 touchdown passes a year, you need some those 2 or 3 yards.
Collins going for Reed downfield, but he's out of bounds. Penalty marker, though. Mark McMillan again on the coverage. Let's see what the call is.
Now, this is why the little men get the complex. They have the guy covered, the guy catches the ball out of bounds, and all of a sudden you get a flag thrown. That causes the little man's complex.
They're walking back toward the line of scrimmage.
There's no infraction on the play. They're picking up the flag. Incomplete pass. Third down.
So a third down coming up.
You know, with all the extra guys in to protect Todd Collins, you think they could do a little better job than that. Throw comes down, but right along the boundary. The one thing that the wide receiver has to do is save the outside room. Andre Reed has done that, but the throw takes him out of bounds. Clearly out of bounds.
So Reed and the rest of the Bills receivers going at Mark McMillan all afternoon, at least thus far in the first half.
Yeah, and we saw one throw where Andre had to come inside to try and get the ball, and that ball takes him out of bounds. Maybe the next one will be right on the money.
3rd and 10. Collins. Reed's got this one, and good for a first down at the 32-yard line of the Chiefs.
You know, Collins just a little late delivering that football and just a tad behind Andre Reed. What you really want to do, if you're an accurate passer, there's another play-action fake, which you actually don't need on third down. Without that play-action fake, he might be able to get Andre Reed the ball in a manner where he's able to catch it and continue to run.
Reggie Tung, one of their impressive-looking young safeties, makes the stop, but not before a 16-yard pickup.
Because you weren't fooled with the play fake on third down, were you?
No, sir. 1st and 10. Bills moving a little bit. Thomas out of the backfield, and Terry Wooden brings him down. Marv Levy says Thomas is really working at it as a receiver. He's done a good job of that. Seems to enjoy that role a little bit more.
Well, he's always been a great receiver. In the last couple of years, his numbers in that department had dropped off a little bit. But the biggest change here is there are more down-the-field routes from Thurman Thomas and Dan Henning's kind of multiple set, multiple look offense.
Thomas out, Antoine Smith back in on 2nd and 7. Collins intended for Antoine Smith, nearly picked off Anthony Davis.
If you're going to play quarterback, the key thing that you have to have poise in the pocket. And you realize that when you call a screen pass, the linemen are going to block 1, 2, it's kind of like a dance step, and then let everyone go. Well, they let the guys go that time. He tosses that ball over the head of Antoine Smith. If that play is not there, you throw that ball up into the stands, 3rd row, give one of those guys who came here dressed in a nice red with the face painted, you give them a souvenir. You don't throw that ball up for grabs in the field of play.
Collins a little lucky as Davis would have had 6 points. 3rd and 7. Many on their feet, and Collins has to call timeout, much to the delight of the Chiefs crowd. And Marv Levy knows there's going to be some ups and downs with his new starting quarterback. Buffalo with a 3rd and 7 coming up. Todd Collins and Andre Reed have hooked up a couple of times on this drive, but right now Collins facing a 3rd and 7.
And Dale Carter shadowing Andre Reed.
Smith the lone setback. Big rush. And Collins has to throw it away. Troy Dumas getting in the backfield.
So I don't understand this. You send 3 guys out, you leave everybody else and then a couple of their buddies in to block, and you don't get the job done. Antoine Smith, one of the hardest things for rookie running backs to learn how to do is to figure out, not to block, but to figure out exactly who to block in all these different blitz situations. Really, the guy to block is the guy who comes free. You got to get that guy.
46-yarder. Perfect.
Pretty.
There you go. Steve Christie. And the 0 is gone from the Buffalo scoreboard. 2nd quarter. Bills finally on the board.
Bills 3.
played sparingly in the first 2 games. Again, basically playing with one arm with the tricep injury, but the defense holding up well without him today.
Isn't there a movie about the one-armed man? The defense is holding up their end of the bargain. Without Derek Thomas and with Dale Carter on part-time duty, they're shutting down Buffalo so far.
Vanover slowed down by Tasker, and then John Holisek makes the tackle, and the Chiefs will take over.
Elvis Gerbach, I thought Andre Rison had the best comment about him last week, and Elvis doesn't like these comparisons, but Andre said after that big comeback win, the king is alive.
There'll be a lot of Presley jokes all season long.
Yeah, but we promised not to do any.
Some good, many bad. First and 10 at their own 20. Gerbach going to play fake. Kimball Anders. Nice cutback. It's up to about the 28. So second and short coming up. Chris Spielman brings him down.
Paul Hackett has been around football long enough to know that you play action this way as if you're going to run, and then you roll away from a guy by the name of Bruce Smith the other direction to keep your quarterback happy, healthy, and sane.
And Anders, Hackett loves so much versatility. Anders wants to be more of a...
Paul Hackett there.
And Gunther Cunningham right next to him. Second and 2. Greg Hill. Appears to have the first down. Bills did an excellent job last week. The key to the whole 8-sack performance against the Jets was stopping the run. Although Hill that time gets the first down, Eric Smedley brings him down.
I think what the Chiefs would like to do in this ballgame that the Jets were unable to do last week against the Buffalo Bills is throw the short control pass on first down. If they can do that, they keep them mixed up. See Wade Phillips going through his laundry list of what to call. Yeah, he likes to put his players in good positions where they're not going to fail on the football field.
The Chiefs get the first down. Gerbeck, Gonzalez to tight end in Buffalo territory. The rookie from Cal with his second reception. Smedley brings him down, and that's no easy task with Gonzalez, who's 6'4", 244.
A little bit of a mismatch there. Tony Gonzalez trying to get away from Chris Spielman. Gonzalez, 21 years of age, what they call in the business fresh legs. Chris Spielman, he has bruises that are older than Tony Gonzalez.
And Gonzalez, yes, Marty Schottenheimer about Gonzalez, says reminds him a little bit of a young Ozzie Newsome. Now, of course, in the front office with the Ravens. Here's his hoop numbers, not bad either. Once again, Gonzalez splitting out and gets down to the 41-yard line. Second and short coming up. Smedley again on the tackle, but that is a tough matchup for Smedley.
Yeah, that's a daunting task because, you mentioned Gonzalez being 6'4". He is a tall 6'4", and there are muscles all the way up and down that body. And if you're Smedley, you're thinking, just catch the ball in front of me, catch it in front of me, and maybe I can pull you down to the ground.
Smedley playing in place of Henry Jones, normally the starter. Again, more slips. Now, I don't know. I understand what you're talking about with these cleats, but we've had 3 guys now who slip. Kimball Anders that time slides in. You still want to blame the cleats?
And you've got Ted Washington down on the ground. You can see Kimball Anders slip, and you can see the turf come up. I told you the turf is loose. Sometimes, they've had a couple weeks to get this thing ready. And sometimes you can be too nice to your grass and get in the type of position where, it becomes loose and it becomes detrimental to the health of the players.
Ted Washington, who was one of the more underrated defensive linemen in the NFL. You ask Chris Spielman, who's the key to this defense? Without hesitation, he'll tell you Ted Washington.
Yeah, because it's Ted Washington's job to soak up that guard who's on the play side and to keep him off that linebacker. And that's Chris Spielman and Damon Covington when they're playing inside. So from his perspective, Chris Spielman, if he wants a free lane to the runner, he needs for Ted Washington to be able to do his job. there's Washington, the big flash right in the middle of the screen. They're working on his right leg, and you talk about the turf. You see a guy right there who might have had a leg in there, but his legs get split out in a kind of an awkward position that you wouldn't expect someone that big to be in. He goes down with a lot of force, and he's still down on the turf right now. He's getting up on his feet, and if he can get off on his own power, that'll make a lot of people on the sideline breathe a sigh of relief.
Washington, not only a big-time player on the field, but in the locker room, he's kind of like the team cut-up, likes to joke, has a great sense of humor. He's a father of 4, so he better have a sense of humor.
Yeah, he should. But, you know, Wade Phillips came over here a couple years ago, and his first assignment was to bring Ted Washington along with him. Phillips, the head coach when he was with Denver, hey, I'm leaving town. I'm going to go find my big man to block the sun.
Smart move. Sean Moran will replace Washington. Marcus Allen in the game now for the Chiefs on a 3rd and 2. Allen gets the call. Allen gets the first down and a couple more.
How many times have we seen Marcus Allen line up 7 yards deep in the backfield, start to his right, cut back to his left? You know, the breakaway speed may not be there, but the vision, the instincts, the ability to find a hole, to dissect the defense, Marcus Allen still has all of that.
Won't see the ball nearly as much with Greg Hill now the featured back, but at 37 years old can still do it when he has to. Gerbach, Andre Rison trying to shake and bake, doesn't get anywhere.
Yeah.
Thomas Smith brings him down.
He was trying to shake and bake and the oven wasn't on, right?
Smith is the guy that they love to talk about. He is rarely thrown at. He's gotten that kind of reputation.
You know, but the defensive coaches say because he doesn't get the action, you know, sometimes your concentration can wane a little bit out there. But the fact that they've tried to hit Andre Rison a couple times early in this ball game, Thomas Smith will be on his best behavior the rest of the ball game.
Didn't have a touchdown pass thrown against him. Smith did last year, not one, all 96. And this time, Kimball Anders lets it go off his fingertips.
Whoa. No, back up there. That ball was a poorly thrown pass way out in front of Kimball Anders. But Elvis Gerbach knows one thing. In this West Coast offense, when pressure's coming at you, you have to know where you can throw the ball. And Kimball Anders is still his security blanket. You know, he doesn't have a track record of throwing to him year in, year out. But he was here. He was here in '94 playing with the 49ers. Montana's the quarterback, and Montana's throwing the ball to Kimball Anders. So he figures, well, if it was good enough for Joe, it's got to be good enough for me.
Gerbach on 3rd down goes downfield. Nearly picked off. Manny Martin almost with the interception. Rison, the intended receiver.
Yeah, Rison has a step on Marlon Kerner, but Marlon Kerner also understands I should have deep help. Rison straight up the middle. He holds that hand up. You know, that hand signals, I'm open. Throw me the ball. Right out of the middle. Good play coming from Manny Martin. A lot of people might call that double coverage, but Manny Martin is that deep safety, and it's his job to react to the thrown ball.
So Martin's play brings on Stojanovic. This one a 49-yarder. Stojanovic already hitting from 45 and 46. No good. Stojanovic misses his first of the season. Now 6-7 here in 97. And the lead for the Chiefs remains 6-3.
Can we enhance performance by simply moving a battery? Is it possible to combine the ease of an automatic with the fun of a manual? Is everyone comfortable with the concept of cab-forward design? These are the questions. This is the answer. Dodge Stratus. Starting under 14.4, 18.4 impressively equipped.
Bills 1st and 10, their own 39. Thurman Thomas doesn't have a lot of room again and gets back to the line of scrimmage. Anthony Davis on the stop.
Now the headset is off. You know, I got to write some notes here, figure some things out. I don't need anybody getting in my ear. I got the headsets off, and here's Kevin Ross talking. Kevin, go away. I'm trying to concentrate. Marty Schottenheimer. is wild about this guy, Kevin Ross. He says pound for pound, the toughest football player I've ever been around. And pound for pound, he also looks like Marvin Hagler, too.
Ross is tough, no question. 2nd and 9. Collins deflected, and again, this one almost picked off as well as Jerome Woods tried to get the deflection. Hasty appeared to get the piece of it.
Todd Collins trying to work the middle of the field. When you play action fake, you expect for those linebackers to bite up. That time they bit up, still were able to get back a little bit. There's Kevin Ross once again. When he left this team, he left his number 31 behind, and got an interesting story to tell, Aaron, after this play about Jerome Woods and his reaction to Kevin Ross.
3rd and 9. Collins again has no one to throw to. What do I do now? That's what you do. Another big play by the Chief defense. Alan McDaniels. Kansas City secondary making some very big plays.
Yeah, and when the quarterback runs around, a lot of times you hear a call like plaster, which means to stick on your man. That time, a lot of time to throw that ball, and the secondary did an excellent job down the field and staying with their man during the course of the scramble.
And of course, you mentioned Carter. He has been like a teacher to Jerome Woods and Reggie Tung, the 2 safeties.
Yeah, and Jerome Woods got to wear number 31 last year, played a little bit at corner, has now been moved to free safety. And when you have somebody's number and they come back to the team, or a guy with more seniority, sometimes there's a little bit of bargaining that goes along. But Jerome Woods went to Kevin Ross and said, you know, I want you to have the jersey back. Kevin's offered to pay for it. He said, no deal, I give it to you out of respect.
Game clock to 2 minutes, 28 seconds.
You know, Marty probably needs the headphones on to find out what's going on in this play. But like I was telling you earlier, Jerome Woods wore number 31 last year. He said, out of respect, I'll give you the number back. You know, but I think in the back of my mind that he wanted to be like Dion.
Well, Ross did say to him, how much do you want?
Yeah. But this guy's idol, and he'll tell you a lot about him, is Jack Lambert. And Jack Lambert, his biggest thing was just getting up there, hitting and smashing the beat. He says he wants to be exactly like Jack Lambert, but he wants to keep his teeth.
He almost came up with his first career interception on that last play. Their first-round pick from '96.
4 years earlier, Jerome Woods was working at Foot Locker for $5.50 an hour. You know, I looked up some of my old material. He was making more than minimum wage, so that was a pretty good job. But the guy who wasn't sure what he was going to do college-wise, almost joined the Navy, ended up at junior college and at Memphis. Now he's a big star in the NFL.
Wants to be in the Pro Bowl this year in his first year as a starter. And Schottenheimer, I think he's going to put them on more than he thought today.
Well, you know, now's the time to talk to the guys upstairs and figure out exactly what's going on.
Of course, next Sunday, more exciting NFL action. A lot of big games. Doubleheader beginning at 12 noon Eastern with the NFL on NBC. Sam Weiss already very comfortable with that group. And then in game one...
Why do they make him stand in the back then if he's so comfortable?
He'll move up eventually. Then game one of our doubleheader. The Chiefs on the road again in Carolina. Jets and the Oakland Raiders. Baltimore, Tennessee. Second game, the Bengals and the Denver Broncos. Colts and these Bills. Both the Bills and the Chiefs' tough early season schedules. And some tough road games early. Chiefs coming away 1-1 in their first 2 road games, and they're right back on the road next week. So Chris Moore back on. Tamarick Vanover back at his own 17-yard line. Penalty marker. High kick but short. Fair catch. Vanover at the 25. But a flag on the play.
And that flag went down immediately. Sometimes, you know, it's thrown late, thrown at guys. That one was dropped right at the line of scrimmage.
Goes against Buffalo.
There's Coach Bruce DeHaven. What? You know, I coached the guys a lot better than that, but illegal procedure You know, that's something that you don't coach. You tell the guys to be calm, to wait till the ball snapped. But just a little flinch, and that play's dead.
So Moore will get a chance once again. We told you about Schottenheimer and his lack of speed as a player. Marv Levy at 72 still has some speed. Runs 4 times a week, 30 minutes each time out, although he says a slow 30 minutes.
Does that mean that the time is going by more slowly for Marv? Now, you made the mistake when the broadcast opened. You called him 72 years old. Marv is 72 years young. Very, very spry.
Still loves it, and he's tired of people asking him, all right, when is going to be your last year? So he decided, he's telling everybody the year 2015, just so they stop asking.
I wouldn't put it past him.
So Moore again, who's been very busy here in the first half. This one a low kick to 21. Vanover starts there. Manny Martin tries to knock him down. Finally, gang tackled. 47-yard punt. And Levy right up there at the top with the great George Halas.
Connie Mack, 87.
It's a little more laid back, though.
I didn't
Baseball,
know.
when
I
you sit
didn't
in
know.
the dugout,
I
you can
didn't know
sit down
Chuck
in the dugout.
Daly
You
was 67.
You got to stand all game.
And you have to roam the sideline.
So the Chiefs will take over Ted Washington. Good news for the Bills. Back in the game after being shaken up. Elvis Gerbach, his first regular season game at Arrowhead, is greeted very warmly by the Chiefs faithful. Under pressure. Ooh, and incomplete.
Almost
Bill Hansen right there.
You put some barbecue sauce or something like that. That ball went right at Ted Washington. Put something on it that he likes to eat. Ted Washington catches that one. Bruce Smith gets, like in a screen, you block 1, 2, then we go to the dance on the other side. That time they only blocked 1. And Ted Washington almost came up with an interception.
And you see Sam Rogers again putting on pressure. Rogers has played very well here in the first half.
And there's Washington moving in the direction of the screen. The ball just bounced. He probably didn't even feel that ball bounce off of him.
Absolutely not. 2nd and 10. Battle of field goals here in the first half. And incomplete. Intended for Rison. Now a late flag comes in, and Thomas Smith obviously not happy. So a little huddle from Tom White's officiating crew. This is an all-and-out discussion.
I think the question has to be, does Thomas Smith get his hand in there? He bumps him, which is true. But Andre Rison, what I don't like, and which Andre would tell you, is he's fading upfield, not moving toward the ball.
Number 28, defense. That's a first down.
But see, that shows a certain amount of respect for the defensive back that they took that long. Here you are, you're Andre Rison. Thomas Smith wants to bat the ball away, but he gets this hand and just pulls you ever so gently away from catching the football.
That gently?
Gently, very gently. It's very gentle out there. Everything is nice and calm, and they want to make nice.
Now, if you're the receiver, you're not saying gently.
No. Well, if I'm the receiver, I just move out of the way and catch the ball.
Leave me alone. So a first down. And Thomas Smith still moaning about it.
I mean, this is about as gentle as the play gets. And you'll watch the culprit here. It's just that hand right in there. Just a little swipe on him to get him out of the way.
Mr. Lofton, you're a lot more gentle than Mr. Smith.
Second quarter score, Green Bay 10, Miami 9.
So still some discussion out on the field.
And the coaches are normally the last ones to find out what's going on. Marty donned the headsets. He's trying to get somebody upstairs to tell him what has gone on. Marv Levy's relying on word of mouth because he's not happy with it. And when you yell and you have the headsets on, that sound comes back in your ear. So Marv, he's in the yelling mode right now, and he doesn't want the headsets on. He takes the headsets off. It's time to yell.
They're trying to figure out where to spot the ball. And they will at the Chiefs' 43-yard line.
Didn't look like it was that far up the field. I think that's what Marv Levy's very concerned about.
That's why he's in yelling mode. Gerbach to throw again. Under pressure. Taken down. Phil Hansen hit him first. And Bruce Smith annoyed with somebody down on the field.
Quarterback sacked by Phil Hansen.
And Sam Rogers, who was also in on that play, shaken up a bit.
Lost 5 on the play.
We mentioned a couple of minutes ago, Rogers has played very well here in the first half. 2-minute warning. 6-3, Chiefs in front. Just under 2 minutes of play, first half, 2nd and 15 for the Chiefs. We saw Brett Perriman shaken up on that play as well and walked slowly off the field. Perriman, of course, had that hamstring injury and missed most of camp and the first game of the season. Gerbach going down the sidelines, intended for Vanover, and Marlon Kerner, who was playing for Jeff Burris, went out early in this game with an injury. Kerner with some good coverage.
There's Marty, critical time of the game with the headset on again, but it's getting pretty close now. It's only a 3-minute differential with the headset off, and I would assume for the rest of the half he's going to have the headset on, so we're going to talk about less than a minute differential. And there's Paul Hackett. They've been told to talk softly while Marty has his headset on.
3rd and 15. Gerbach to Risen. Risen down to the 40. First down, Kansas City. And they want a timeout. 21-yard pickup. Eric Smedley brings him down, but Risen and Gerbach starting to get a nice feel for each other.
Yeah, and nobody lays a hand on Andre Rison. You really have to hold the guy up. The second guy tries to get a shot on him. They know that Andre Rison is a featured receiver. He has become Elvis Gerbach's go-to guy. When you have a guy like Andre Rison, the one thing you have to do, you can't let him run freely down the field. You have to take your shots at him. And really, Thomas Smith is a good enough guy to match up one-on-one on him. Very often you get in this situation, just like the Raiders were last week, you play a little too soft. Marty Schottenheimer told us the most important play of the 2-minute drill is the first play, and that was their first play in the 2-minute drill, and they get one of their big chunks down the football field.
Risen's 4th catch in his first year with the Chiefs. Yes, he has bounced around a little bit. Started off with the Colts. 1 year there, 5 years Atlanta, 1 year Cleveland, half year with Jacksonville, half year with Packers, but a good half year, Super Bowl. And here he is with the Chiefs, off to a rather nice start in week 2.
Are you saying he'll only be here half a year if the trend continues?
You just don't know.
I think Andre Rison would love to stay in the same place.
Kimball Anders on first down, breaks a couple of tackles, and he gets another first, run out of bounds at about the 27, 12-yard pickup for Anders.
Nice change of pace there. Everybody's thinking rush the passer, get after Elvis Gerbach. Get the ball to Kimball Anders. Good things normally happen for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Anders very pumped about. He's going to get more carries in 97. That's what he's been told. He wants to show people that he has running skills.
That's what they told him. He's a fullback. Kimball Anders, he'll get about, if he can get 5 to 6 carries a game, that's almost 100 for the season. And that's really about right for a fullback.
That one gets the first down, so they give it to him again. Wrapped up behind the line, but still manages to get a few. Bruce Smith hit him right away. I want to remind you, coming up at halftime, it's the Domino's Pizza NFL on NBC halftime report. Greg Gumbel will have all the scores and highlights from around the league.
I could go for a little snack at halftime.
2nd and 7. And Gerbach threw it away. That time Thomas Smith was all over Andre Rison.
Thomas Smith did a great job on Andre Rison. You see Andre complaining to the officials. Thomas Smith is one of those guys that when the pressure's on, he plays a lot better. 1st and 10, I can lollygag around a little bit. But when it's time for my guy to be the featured guy, I'm going to cover him.
Marcus Allen back in on a 3rd and 7. 6-3 Chiefs lead. A couple of Stoyanovich field goals. 2:14 remaining in the first half.
Marcus Allen inching up a little closer to the line of scrimmage just in case a blitz comes.
Big rush. Bryce Pop chasing Gerbach, who throws it downfield, nearly picked off. Manny Martin again almost had it. And the crowd felt that Rison had too much.
Well, Andre Rison would have liked to have fought his way back through Thomas Smith for the ball. But that's just as much a no-no as anything else. See the pressure coming up the middle. Marcellus Wiley taking up 2 blockers, getting off those blockers. When you see Marcellus Wiley, built a lot like Bruce Smith, tall and muscular, the guy who they think a lot of. Look at Andre Rison grabbing the jersey of Thomas Smith to try and get away. And once again, Rison raising the hand. The boos came because Smith didn't look back for the ball, but that was severely underthrown.
2 for 3 today, Stojanovic. This one from about 42 yards. And the Chiefs calling their third and final timeout.
30 seconds out.
A lot of interesting scores to tell you about. Greg Gumbel, Chris Collinsworth, and Sam Weish back in New York with all the scores and highlights, plus a chat with Brett Favre. Favre, who showed a lot of class last week when Ryan Longwell missed that field goal that could have won the game for him against the Eagles. Went over, put his arm around him, talked him up. A lot of Packers were disappointed. They were talking about a 16-0 season.
You think he talked him up? He really threatened his life. He said, "You do that again, buddy, and you're out of here." No, Longwell had been hot for him. And Longwell was the guy who came along as a free agent kicker. You know, they hadn't expected him to be the guy who they were going to go to. But Longwell, you know, an easy chip shot field goal, and he just misses it.
So 42-yarder for Stojanovic. And Stojanovic now 3 of 4 this afternoon, responsible for all the points. And Marv Levy's defense bends a little, does not break. A little over a minute remaining here this second quarter. See, I try and look for the good things in people. I think he was nice to him.
Yeah, I think he might have been nice to him, but, you know, when your kicker has a chance to win the ball game, that's what you want the guy to be able to do. But Brett Favre also realized last week in their game against the Eagles that he had not played well, nor had his wide receivers played well. They had missed several balls, and what happens when you lose a ball game, you can take two roads. You can either beat guys up or you can pat them on the back. And Brett Favre is the guy who wants his team to rally for next week.
Marty Schottenheimer didn't beat him up after the Bronco game. Tough loss in the opener. But after the victory over the Raiders, he was concerned, because that's always such an emotional game. He was concerned, Schottenheimer was, about the emotional letdown. They didn't have good practices Wednesday, Thursday, but you watched practice, were there on Friday, and you came away very impressed.
Yeah, I was impressed with how intense practice was. And that's not to say that when guys are loose, that's not a good thing. But it was a very tight practice. And I wonder if it was that intense because the enemy, the former Buffalo Bill, was there watching them. But Marty Schottenheimer has also said that when his team wins, he doesn't want them to gloat about that game. He wants them to get on to the next game, to start preparing. He didn't give them a chance to pop the cork when they beat the Raiders. It was time to get back to business because the Bills are coming to town.
Stojanovic kicks off. Eric Foles again back at the 3. Foles taken down about the 26. Greg Minuski on the tackle.
24-yard return. He was tackled by Greg Minuski.
Well, with just under 58 seconds, Buffalo has a couple of choices here. They have all their timeouts, but like Marty Schottenheimer said, you need to be able to move the ball on the first play. Michigan State versus Notre Dame next Saturday, 2:30. Notre Dame lost to Purdue. The sea of fans on the field after the ball game.
First down.
And Michigan State is back on track, so it'll be a good ball game. I'll bet you a soda pop one team wins.
I don't bet. Next Saturday on NBC. Collins flushed out, and Lonnie Johnson cannot hold on. Troy Dumas putting on pressure once again. And Collins has had a rough go of it here in the first half.
You know, sometimes you look at plays and you wonder, is it the play selection? Is it the quarterback? Is it the execution? You know, it's a little of everything. You know, his line is just letting people go just a little too early. He tries that easy toss to Lonnie Johnson at the end of the play. The ball's a little too low for Johnson to get down and catch on the run. catchable passes in the framework of the body are the key if you want to be an excellent quarterback in this league.
Has plenty of time. Johnson catches this one. James Hasty with a nice open field tackle brings him down at the 30.
Yeah, a great, do you call timeout here? I don't think so, because they're not that confident in whether or not they can move the ball. Finally, they decide, sure, we'll call timeout. It'll be interesting to see what type of play they come back into the game with.
There's the time remaining. And with one timeout left, 34 seconds. And of course, Collins, he says he's not really worried about the shadow of Jim Kelly. Of course, a legend up in Buffalo. The only way to fight Kelly's shadow is to win. But he's also been aided by Jim Kelly, who says the number one lesson he learned from Kelly was resiliency, how to bounce back from adversity. And as we saw earlier today on the pregame show, Jim Kelly knows a lot about dealing with adversity. That just tragic story about his son Hunter, who has Luca Dystra, and the courage that Jim and his wife are showing for that little fighter is something special.
And as tough as you think Jim Kelly is, his wife is even tougher. And our hearts go out to him, our prayers are with him, but he's held up pretty well under this.
Antoine Smith tackled behind the line of scrimmage. Troy Dumas, who's making some big plays. Chiefs out of timeouts.
Well, the Bills can let the clock run out here, and Marv Levy realizes that he wants the guys on the field, but there's not a play to run. He's yelling kind of just for the sake of yelling, so that the guys on the offense can hear his voice and realize that they didn't do their job.
So Marv Levy's offense struggling a bit against the Kansas City defense. A Chiefs defense that playing without their star, Derek Thomas, but they've held up well. And Elvis Gerbach and Andre Rison connecting a number of times here in the first half, enabling Pete Stoyanovich to get 3 field goals. Halftime, Chiefs lead at 9-3. We'll return with the Domino's Pizza NFL NBC halftime report after these messages from your local station.
This is the Domino's Pizza NFL on NBC halftime report, brought to you by Domino's Pizza. For hot and wow, call Domino's. Now,
those of you who have been watching the games being played in the Meadowlands and in Kansas City, welcome to our studio in New York. Greg Gumbel along with Sam Weish and Chris Collinsworth. Let's update you on the action that's taken place so far today, and we'll begin at Lambeau Field in Green Bay with the Green Bay Packers hosting the Miami Dolphins.
Touchdown and stuff. Jump in the stands. Have fun. Defense, let's have fun. Let's get turnovers.
Reggie White knows the best way to have fun is to win the game. Green Bay's Bill Schrader fields the Miami punt, but he's hit by Dwayne Dotson. Bracy Walker recovers for the Dolphins. It led to a 24-yard field goal by Olinda Mare and a 3-0 Dolphin lead. Injury-plagued Packers didn't like this. Gilbert Brown limping off in the first quarter, taken to the locker room for treatment. 6-0 Dolphins second quarter, 3rd and goal. Brett Favre to Antonio Freeman, 2-yard touchdown pass, and the Packers up 7-6. 9-7 Miami late in the second quarter, and Favre went to Robert Brooks, and Brooks will pick up 49 quick yards, which lead to a 26-yard field goal by Ryan Longwell. Favre was 12 of 16, 147 yards in the first half, and the Packers lead by a score of 10-9, the exact score by which they lost last week to Philadelphia. Chris, at least they reached that point at halftime.
Yeah, they sure did. You know what's been impressive, though, about this game is the play of this Miami defense. Now, after 2.5 games, they have only allowed 2 touchdowns against this defense. They're a little conservative, but they're playing good football with it. On the offensive side, Dan Marino and company really struggling trying to score in the red zone. 0 for 3 today, 2 for 12 on the season. If they can just score a few touchdowns, they have a real shot here.
All right, Chris, battle of the unbeatens in the NFC Central, going the way of the Bucs so far. 21-3, the Bucs are leading the Minnesota Vikings. In Kansas City, some of you watching this game, the Chiefs are leading the Buffalo Bills 9-3 at halftime. At the Meadowlands, some of you are watching this game, the Ravens with a 14-12 lead on the Giants at the break. Ted Marchibroda's team still looking for its first road win since moving to Baltimore. Scoreless in the first, Derek Alexander, who had 8 catches last week for 108 yards. How much more alone can you be? 22 yards and a touchdown from Vinny Testaverde, 7-0 Baltimore. And then in the second quarter, the Giants come back. Tiki Barber takes it in from a yard out, his 3rd touchdown of the year. The point after was blocked and the Giants trailed 7-6. Late in the second, the Ravens go on 4th down from the 1-inch line. Rookie Jay Graham gets the call and he gets it in. 14-6 Ravens. 17 seconds before the half, Dave Brown to Charles Way for the 1-yard touchdown. The Giants missed the 2-point conversion attempt, and it's a 14-12 Baltimore lead. Dave Brown, not a bad day so far today, Sam. 18 of 26 for 144 yards in the touchdown pass.
Coach's challenge last week about not giving up in the second half, but the Giants came into this game last in the NFL in time of possession. They controlled the ball for 18 minutes going into this second half. Very important to keep that ball away from Jackson and Alexander and Vinny's strong arm.
All right, in Washington, the Arizona Cardinals visiting the Redskins. Redskins lead it by a field goal, 10-7. Oakland is at Atlanta today, and the Falcons have a halftime lead of 14-10 over the Raiders. Welcome back to Atlanta, Jeff George. 7-0 Falcons first quarter, and on second down for the Raiders, their second possession. Watch the effort by Napoleon Kaufman. To the left side, cuts back to the right, 61 yards in all. He had 6 carries for 76 yards at halftime with the extra point. This game was tied at 7 apiece. Bill Bugle wasn't at all happy with John Henry Mills called for holding on an Atlanta field goal. The penalty was costly. 2 plays later, Chandler to O.J. Santiago on a 1-yard touchdown pass, and the Falcons led it 14-7. A field goal made it a 14-10 Falcons lead at halftime. And in Chicago, the Bears trail the Detroit Lions by a score of 13-7. They are in the second quarter. Take a look at the difference in Barry Sanders. 53 yards combined in the first 2 weeks, 102 yards against the Bears today. Some bad news for the Bears. They have lost running back Rashaan Salam to a broken right fibula. Should put him out of action at least a month or so. Our NFL and NBC halftime activities continue after these messages from the National Football League.
This is the Domino's Pizza NFL on NBC Halftime Report, brought to you by Domino's Pizza. For hot and wow, call Domino's. Now,
Greg Gumbel back in our New York studios, along with Chris Collinsworth and Sam Weish. If you were with us on our pregame show, you had a chance to hear from Packers quarterback Brett Favre. Here's a bit more of his conversation with Bob Costas on Favre's love for the game.
3, 2, 1, world champion, Green Bay Packers.
Because every Sunday when I go in and get dressed, I pick up the media guide and look at it. Whose name do you see in it? But Bart Starr and Vince Lombardi. And when I drive home every day, I go down Lombardi Avenue. He's gone, but his legacy will live on forever. We practice in the Don Hudson Center. He played well before any of us were alive. That's pretty neat. You know, all the wins and all that stuff are great, but you want to be remembered, obviously, in a good way when you're done, like those guys are, and that's important to me.
Here's a quote from your book. In my mind, I think I can be the best ever. I don't know if it'll ever happen, but I think it's important to set high goals, and I always have.
I really believe that. I've accomplished a lot in a short period of time, but there's still a lot to accomplish. People ask me all the time, you know, what's left? Well, there's a lot left, because I want to be the best quarterback every year, every time I step on the field, every play.
You grew up following the Cowboys. The Cowboys have been a nemesis for the Packers, as everyone knows, for years, often knocking you out of the playoffs. Last year it was set up. Everyone thought it was going to be an NFC championship game between the Cowboys and Packers, but this time on the frozen tundra. Now, even though you won the Super Bowl, and you can't ask for more than that, is there a sense that maybe something isn't accomplished because you haven't whacked the Cowboys yet?
For me, no. For my wife, yes.
So is your wife suiting up on November 23rd against the Cowboys?
She'd love to. She would love to. I said, I told my wife, I said, Deanna, I don't care. We won the Super Bowl. We're watching the Carolina-Dallas game last year, and I'm on the couch. I really don't know who to pull for, but I'm kind of pulling for Carolina. We've gotten our tails kicked by Dallas so much. I've had enough of it, basically. And Carolina, it looks like they're going to win. I'm kind of like that. And she says, no, come on, Dallas. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? She goes, I want to beat those guys. I'm like, you don't have to play against them. I have to play against them. I remember as a kid dreaming of playing in the NFL. And you know what kills me is so many guys today take for granted playing this game and how hard it is. I tell our guys in the huddle all the time, can you believe they pay us to do this? It's amazing. In all sports, when we get paid to do what we do, it's really something special.
That's Brett Favre. Incidentally, Bob Costa spends a full half hour with Brett Favre on MSNBC's Internight this coming Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 o'clock on the West Coast. Our NFL and NBC halftime coverage continues.
The Big Show, it's news, it's interviews, it's commentary, it's
The Big Show. It's Keith Olbermann, coming in October on MSNBC.
It's longer than this promo.
Next Saturday, one of college football's greatest rivalries is renewed when the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame host the Michigan State Spartans. Next Saturday at 2:30 Eastern on NBC.
Rodgers and Hanson for Buffalo. And I think McDaniels and is it Dumas? Halftime at Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City, and the Chiefs leading the Buffalo Bills 9-3. Kansas City playing without their defensive star. That, of course, Derek Thomas out with a tricep injury, but their defense not slowing down one bit. Of course, Thomas has been playing one arm the first two games, but they've really played exceptionally well without their leader.
I would have to think it's the awareness of the fact that we don't have him, and before they might have counted on him a little too much, but the Buffalo Bills haven't been able to do anything, especially running the football, because that's the area that they really thought that this offense would improve in. Thurman Thomas is a guy who has had some great success in the past. If you compare him to a guy like Barry Sanders, he's done a good job, but this game they haven't been able to get untracked at all.
Only 6 yards rushing in the first half. Let's look at some of those halftime stats. As Todd Collins' offense just have not been able to get it in gear. There's the rushing yards, the Coors Light halftime statistics. Only 6 yards. Thurman Thomas, 7 carries for 3 yards. And Kansas City, Gerbach and Verizon starting to hook up a little bit, and that's going to be the case. They're going to get more comfortable with each other every week.
And they're going to get more comfortable because of a depleted secondary by the Buffalo Bills. Jeff Burris is now out with an injury. We mentioned Henry Jones, the starting strong safety. He's out for the ball game. So all of a sudden, you have two guys who are normally used to being backups who are thrust into the role of playing an extended period of time. Sometimes if you're not a starter, you don't have the conditioning that it takes to play every play. And for Kerner and for Smedley, their conditioning is going to become a factor in the second half of this ball game.
So both teams a little banged up. Rodgers' hamstring will prevent him from returning for Buffalo. Christie to kick off. DeMar Vanover at the goal line. And taken down at about the 23-yard line. Gerbach and the offense will take over. And when you have so many new key players, new quarterback, new wide receivers, new tight end, Greg Hill really the new starter there. You've got new players on the offensive line as well. It's going to take a few weeks before you really get in sync.
Yeah, but I also think the fact that Gerbach really came in here with a lot more experience than Todd Collins. He's been in the league longer. He had more starts than Todd Collins did in this ballgame. And even though he has a lot of new personnel, Marty Schottenheimer has made a commitment to throwing the football down the field.
Anders in motion. And it's complete up to about the 27-yard line.
Yeah, like that deep pass right there.
Ted Popson, the tight end. Popson, of course, another former 49er. Those two on the same wavelength from their days in San Francisco. And Popson has played so well that Gonzalez not starting.
Yeah, and it was interesting when Schottenheimer was looking at guys to add to this team. Gunther Cunningham, who was a very good friend of George Seifert, the former San Francisco 49er head coach, they worked together at the collegiate level. He suggested Elvis Gerbach. He said, but you also need to take a look at Ted Popson. This guy's free, great tight end, good player. And that was before they got Gonzalez.
Greg Hill on 2nd and 7. Bryce Pop quickly makes the stop. Gabe Northern, by the way, number 99 is in now for Sam Rodgers. As we mentioned, Rodgers out for the rest of the game with a hamstring.
And Northern going out kind of holding his side there a little bit. I don't know if he got kicked or hit or punched or, you know, getting kicked and hit and punched. That's all legal as long as there's no yellow flags out there.
3rd and 6. Marcus Allen back in the game for the Chiefs. Dana Hughes in motion. Pop with good pressure. And what a catch up at the 33-yard line. And depending on where they spot it, very close to a first down. Hobson with his 3rd reception of the afternoon. Kurt Scholl's good hard tackle. And they're going to measure it.
Now, Now, wait a minute. If I'm not crazy, they pick the ball up, and then they put it back down to measure.
Right.
Normally when you're going to, well, I guess they had to do that because he was knocked backwards.
Right.
So they're going to bring the sticks in all the way from the other side. Not a visual spot here.
They know what they're doing.
You know, in golf now, they have those binoculars that you can look through that have like the laser sightings. I think what they could do, they could line the ball up, take those binoculars, and they wouldn't have to run the guys out there. I could tell it was a couple inches short.
Marv Levy knows his defense with just a short way to go.
See, Marv used to coach for the Chiefs. He's a little confused. He's yelling that he thought he had the first day. He thought he was the Chiefs coach here just for a moment.
Levy head coach of the Chiefs from 78 to 82, and they will not go for it. Aguiar on the punt.
I asked him, did he ever go by his old neighborhood? He jokingly said they burned down my old house when I left town.
Well, the hotel he stayed in was on Marty Drive, which is not a good sign if you're the visiting team.
Not a good omen when you're coming to town to play against the Kansas City Chiefs. Let's see if Tasker can field this one clean and get some running room.
And a fair catch from Tasker. Nice punt from Aguiar. And the veteran punter does his job. 54-yarder for Louis Aguiar. Chiefs with 3 field goals, Bills with 1 here in the third.
The Chiefs are your team, Kansas City, and that's why we've instituted the simple guideline.
The NFL on NBC is brought to you by the full line of vehicles from Mitsubishi, built for living. By Oracle, the company that's enabling the information age through network computing. By Nike, who encourages you to participate in the lives of America's youth. And by AIM Mutual Funds. AIM, invest with discipline.
Beautiful afternoon, Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City. Great place to watch NFL football. And the Chiefs fans rooting on their defense now. Bills will start this series at their own 14. Antoine Smith hits away from McDaniels, breaks another couple of tackles, and finally brought down. Vaughn Booker gets him at the 23, and Booker is hurt on the play.
And 9 yards on the play.
Booker down, Antoine Smith limping off. First good run by the Buffalo Bills all day long.
Gained only 6 yards in the first half, and Booker, as soon as he made the tackle, grabbed something.
And Lonnie Johnson at the point of attack has not had a good day. He's really the featured blocker in this offense. I asked Don Lawrence, who's the tight ends coach, what's the difference between the tight end who's on the line of scrimmage and the tight end who's in the movement? He said the tight end on the line of scrimmage, Lonnie Johnson, is a phenomenal athlete, but in this offense, he becomes more of a blocker than a receiver. Jay Remersma is more of our move tight end. He's going to catch more passes out of the backfield. But Lonnie Johnson has just been a step off this whole game.
Booker gets up, by the way, and walks off on his own.
Booker looks like he just gets twisted up. You know, both guys come out of that limping a little bit. Hopefully they'll both be back in the ballgame.
6'5", 300, nearly twisted up. 2nd and 1 now for Buffalo. Thurman Thomas. There you go, the flea flicker. Collins.
It's there.
Andre Reed. Got it.
Dale Carter.
Reed and Carter going at it. And Reed gets away from him.
Man.
Touchdown, Bills.
Dale Carter's ankle was hurting before the play. It's going to swell up after this one.
77 yards. Andre Reed with a brilliant run after the catch.
The frustrating thing for the Kansas City Chiefs is all day long we've been shutting them down. Dan Henning, it's interesting. When there's a timeout, the offensive coaches, their brains just go a million miles an hour. They were able to come up with this one, pull it out of the hat. Andre Reed does a nice job stopping, slipping, and getting away from Dale Carter.
And a solid throw from Todd Collins. Collins with his 5th touchdown pass of the season. Andre Reed catches his 2nd of the year, and Buffalo's in front.
86-yard drive. Kansas City
33-year-old Andre Reed with a marvelous run after a catch, 77-yard hookup with Todd Collins as he beats Dale Carter. And Buffalo with their first lead of the afternoon.
And that's no small feat to beat Dale Carter, even if you do use a little trickery.
And even if he does have a bad ankle, Christie kicks off. Van over at the 3. That's inside, taken down at the 22-yard line. Ball knocked loose, but they blow the whistle. Let's take a look at that score again.
Well, it's kind of the Bullwinkle and Rocky. Watch me pull a rabbit out of my hat. Dan Hennings goes back to the drawing board. The handoff to Thurman Thomas. You've been running the ball ineffectively. This safety gets a little trouble right here. He wants to come up and force the run. Andre Reed does a good job in just hesitating long enough and then bursting away from Carter right there. And he's headed down the field for the score. Collins, a good job getting the ball out to him. That's a long throw, especially when your guy's already out there. You have to get it there in a hurry.
Gerbach, quick throw. Horizon cannot hold on. And a 2nd and 10 coming up. Horizon a strong first half. Caught 4 passes for 64 yards. Of course, Kansas City had to come from behind. Big come from behind victory on Monday night. Down 14 in the second half.
You know, I talked to Andre on the field before the game, and he's still trying to figure out what the Raiders are doing in that coverage.
Gerbach, Horizon's got him. Marlon Kerner brings him down, but good for a first down up to the 36-yard line.
When you're going to come after the passer, you have man-to-man coverage. Andre Rison, 9 years, 16, still has enough burst to get away from Marlon Kerner. And I mentioned Kerner is a guy who's used to coming in and playing about maybe 15 to 20 plays per game. His conditioning, the ability to be able to go every down isn't there. So he and Smedley are going to have a tough time keeping up with Rison and Perriman, especially when they have a lot of tricks up their sleeve like that last one.
Kerner playing for the injured Jeff Burris, and this play goes nowhere. Greg Hill, tough fight up the middle. Marcellus Wiley.
And he better get that helmet back on. When he made a tackle, that could be ruled a little bit of celebration there.
Obviously, something is wrong with the helmet there, but
that's what happens. That's what happens when you hit people. Your helmet gets twisted around. He was looking inside of it to see if everything fit right.
He's from Columbia, so there's obviously something technically he's doing with the helmet. 2nd and 9. Gerbach to Popson. Up to the 42. Popson's 4th catch. And as we mentioned earlier, the tight end, very important part of what this offense wants to do. Bryce Pop with the stop.
You know, you think of Bryce Pop as being a linebacker, but more of a rush linebacker. That time, Pop has to drop back into coverage to cover Popson. So it was Pop on Popson. Correct?
That's correct. Popson with 3 catches in the first 2 games before this afternoon. And another 3rd down to Kansas City.
Move Bruce Smith over the center, trying to get some quick penetration.
And a hard hit. Kurt Schultz comes right up and makes the tackle on Anders.
Yeah, and Anders was able to put the brakes on just enough to avoid the full brunt of Kurt Schultz coming up. When Kurt commits to a play, there's no hesitation. A lot of guys will come up, you'll be able to juke them out. That time, Schultz came up 100 miles an hour, and all Anders could do was stop enough to avoid full contact, but he wasn't able to get away from it.
Aguiar having a terrific afternoon, and Tasker
frustrated to this point that he hasn't been able to get one. Last week he had a 47-yarder that helped set up a big score for them against the Jets.
That was a career-long return.
He got tired at the end of the 47 yards.
He absolutely did. And Aguiar with another beauty. Fair catch from Tasker. And Louis Aguiar has really done his job. This one from 53 yards. Bills again in poor position to start, but they lead 10-9.
You're watching the NFL on NBC.
Oh, what fun it is to be a rookie and to play special teams. Mr. Johnson here, not only do you get pushed out of bounds, you have to run into the equipment and run past some of your guys, and you don't get anywhere near the play.
Clyde Johnson, who went to K-State, left for the Marines, was stationed in Japan and Korea. He's 27 years old, a rookie free agent, learning about life in the NFL. Bills at their own 9 to start. Antoine Smith gets away from one. Excellent run from the rookie up to about the 16 as he was almost stopped behind the line of scrimmage from Vaughn Booker.
And right now, the difference between Antoine Smith and the difference between Thurman Thomas, when Thurman Thomas has been disrupted in the backfield, he hasn't been able to get away from that first guy. Antoine Smith on the previous run and also that run, that time, Vaughn Booker breaking through, but Antoine Smith able to get away from him.
You asked Thurman Thomas yesterday, do you feel good? He said, yes. He said, do you feel young? He said, no.
And it's funny, he said, you know, you expect an older running back that the knees were the thing that's going. He said, it's not my knees, it's my shoulders. Because that's what takes a physical pounding. Because Thurman Thomas is a low guy. He likes to lean forward. And these shoulders have taken a lot of wear and tear. And right behind him to his right is Elijah Pitts, formerly the running back coach, still is running back coach, but also the assistant head coach. And when Marv Levy was down last year, couldn't answer the bell, Elijah Pitts stepped up, was the head coach for, I think, 3 weeks and won one ball game for him.
And Antoine Smith gets the first down, showing signs of life here in the second half.
Got a reverse coming.
The reverse. Andre Reed. And Reed hit hard by James Hasty.
Hasty played for the New York Jets, and he's seen that reverse from Andre Reed a couple of times. That time he smelled it out, got over to it. You notice both of Andre Reed's chin straps came undone there. Marcellus Wiley's going to have to understand, the rookie defensive end, that when you get hit real hard, the chin strap gets undone. You don't have to take your helmet off and figure out if there's something wrong inside of it. When you get popped, that thing comes loose.
What exactly does a reverse smell like?
And you can smell it in the air. It's kind of like the smell of barbecue coming down the pipeline.
2nd and 10. Collins intended for Moles, incomplete. Mark McMillan again on the coverage.
You know, Andre Reed may not be the featured receiver on this play because Todd Collins is looking to his left the whole way. Dale Carter gets that left hand in there, and I believe that may constitute holding.
Mr. Reed thinks so.
Holding. Number 34. Defense. It's a 5-yard penalty. First down.
When things are going well for you, you don't get the holding call. You deflect the flea flicker pass. But things aren't going well for Dale Carter today so far.
Carter in his 6th year in the league. Pro Bowler the past 3 years, but he's been battling an ankle injury. First down again for Buffalo. They lead 10-9. Collins dumps it off. Thurman Thomas. Thomas eludes one. Gets up to about 31. Did a good job getting away from Anthony Davis before Hasty stopped him.
That is what I thought Thurman Thomas's role in this offense would evolve into a little more. You look downfield, and where's your security blanket? Like Elvis Gerbach is developing Kimmel Anders. When Thurman Thomas is in the ballgame, if you can get him the ball late, and if he's in space with one guy, normally Thurman Thomas can make one man miss. That time he's able to do a good job of that and get them some positive yardage when they had everyone covered down the field.
10 years of NFL experience for Thomas. 2nd and 5 for the Bills. And Thomas gets the first down up to the 39-yard line. Jerome Woods on the tackle. Thomas has said that he knows he can't do it week in and week out like he used to, but he also knows that on a certain day, on a big game, he wants the ball 20 to 25 times.
And he's in very elite category with Walter Payton. I think he's in black because he's in the Hall of Fame. Marcus Allen is headed to the Hall of Fame. And if I'm a voter, Thurman Thomas gets one of my votes for that Hall of Fame.
I think there's no question he gets in. Another first down. Bills offense showing some good signs here in the 3rd quarter. Collins again dumps off to Thurman. Thomas breaks another tackle. And Once again, Anthony Davis very upset with himself as Thomas rambles down to the 48-yard line of the Chiefs.
The tough thing about alternating is finding your rhythm. Thurman Thomas saw him with a nice catch, make a guy miss. He had a run where he had a hole. And one of the things that he told us, he said the toughest thing about going to the sideline, Antoine Smith comes in, and all of a sudden there seem to be holes to run through. You know, you get real envious. You say, how come the guys aren't blocking for me? Don't they like me anymore?
Thomas and Smith getting the running game going. Remersma in motion. They'll stay on the ground. The rookie Smith this time. And taken down. Anthony Davis that time slowed him down well enough to set up Kerry Hicks's tackle.
You know, Antoine Smith, one of the things that he's going to have to learn is he's going to have to understand that when a big offensive lineman like Ruben Brown right here is pulling for him, you stay behind that guy no matter where he goes. Brown turns it up into the hole. Smith tries to go outside. Follow the big bodies, and you won't get in trouble. Follow the big bodies.
Good words of advice from James Lofton. 2nd and 10. Big rush. Collins has to get rid of it. Went early in the vicinity, but Collins had no chance that time.
Yeah, and that play looked a little out of sync. They were bringing 7 guys in the rush. You need a receiver who's going to break his pattern off. Quinn Early that time didn't break his pattern off. Todd Collins wanted to get the ball out to a hot receiver, and Quinn Early may not have been the hot receiver. Collins thinks, I can just hold it long enough, get it to Early, he can beat his guy. He didn't get open, but at least he didn't take the sack.
Anthony Davis putting on the pressure. 3rd and 10. Bills lead 10-9, late 3rd quarter. Big rush. Jerome Woods flagged down. Collins eludes everyone so far, and finally taken down from behind by Anthony Davis. But a penalty marker on the play. So after moving the ball well, and after Anthony Davis and the Chiefs missed a couple of tackles, he's coming up big now.
Yeah, he finally got in on that ball. Fourth down. You know, just a total protection breakdown. We mentioned Antoine Smith earlier. Has not done a good job in picking up the blitzing linebackers. He's big enough, he's strong enough, but he just doesn't have a grasp for where everyone's coming from. That time, Jerome Woods gets past him, and Jerome Woods is a little tiny free safety.
Moore with a nice high punt. Van over at his own 11. Tim Tyndale runs him out of bounds. 46-yard punt for Chris Moore. Chiefs will take over. 3:45 remaining, 3rd quarter. Kansas City trailing by 1. Home opener at Arrowhead Stadium. Capacity crowd 78,169. Watching their Chiefs now with the ball. And yes, he decided on his own that was voluntary to come to the stadium looking like that.
But how about the people who are sitting right behind him? He's got that headdress on, blocking our view.
Gerback, good play fake. Now finds Greg Hill open. And he's taken down. Marlo Perry on the stop.
Yeah, good coverage by the wide receivers down the field. The linebackers dropped to help out after that play action fake. But Elvis Gerbach, you know, I'm looking downfield. I'm looking. There's nothing open. Okay, I know there's supposed to be a guy short. Check it down to him. Pick up a nice, who was that, 8.5, 9 yards?
They'll call it a 2nd and 1. Hill again, Spielman greets him at the line of scrimmage. Spielman active as always. Spielman says This is as fun a group to play, defensive group that he's on now with the Bills, as he's ever had.
Yeah, and he talked about, 11 being one. 11 being one. And he wasn't talking about combining paychecks. But all 11 guys out there playing together. It's not, get a good rush with the defensive line and some coverage over here. It's 11 guys pulling together. And when something bad happens, he's the first guy to step in the huddle and say, okay, guys, it's the next play that's the important one. Not the play that just passed. It's the next play.
First down, Kansas City. So still with a good tackle, but not enough.
If they had those laser binoculars out there, they could save these guys a lot of wear and tear on their bodies coming from the sideline.
I think they're doing just fine.
I think
a little exercise, run out to the field.
You need some high tech, but okay, when it starts snowing out here, and those guys have to slosh through the snow, they run out there, they fall down, they hurt something, then they're filing for disability. Then we're in big trouble. Get those binoculars out there, you can see if it's first down or not.
It is this time. Gerbach going downfield. What a catch! And then he dropped it. Almost a sensational catch.
Take a look at Perryman's shoulder pads, though. That is the indication. Don't fix it, Marty. Marty should point that out to the officials because your pads don't come undone by themselves. They only come undone when the sneaky little defensive backs pull you. But if you saw the tail end of that play, Perryman had his left hand on Marlon Kerner's hip just to keep Marlon Kerner from being able to elevate and to go up after that pass.
And it looked like Eric Smedley distracted him enough where Perryman could not hold on. Kimball Anders gets up to about the 34. Steve Wallace, by the way, has come in at left tackle for Jeff Criswell. Not fun facing Bruce Smith all afternoon.
I think that Kimball Anders has also told these guys, give me the ball. I think I can break them. Everybody knows that Greg Hill has a lot of speed, but Kimball Anders has that sneaky burst where he can just get into a secondary. He had the big run against the Raiders last weekend, and it was on a play similar to that. So I'm sure the Buffalo Bills went home, watched those tapes, and said, hey, this Kimball Anders is somebody we have to watch.
Third down and 5. Gerbach has got Anders, but well shy of the first down. Eric Smedley, again playing in place of the injured Henry Jones, and another player down. Bruce Smith. Certainly that's the last player that Bills fans want to see limping.
What Bruce Smith is doing right there is what old-time football players do. You get hurt, you get up, and you get off the field. You don't want guys coming out, taking a look at you. And there's Steve Wallace, a guy who's faced it a number of times. Steve Wallace used to protect Joe Montana's backside. Then he had to protect Steve Young's front side. Now he's taking care of Elvis's backside.
Bruce Smith, as you mentioned earlier, was told by Marv Levy this week, wants to sit him down once in a while. So he's rested up in the fourth quarter. Aguiar on once again. Tasker steps up at the 19. He'll start from there. Gets away from a few. And is thrown down at about the 28. 44-yard punt. Louis Aguiar. Ralph Tam on the tackle. And concern on the Bills bench. They lead 10-9, but Bruce Smith shaken up. Jeff Criswell at left tackle. Smith still sitting on the sideline. First and 10 for Buffalo. Antoine Smith, the rookie. Maybe a yard or two. And he's quickly wrapped up. Helen McDaniels.
Bruce Smith is back up and walking that right knee. He missed a lot of the season back in 1991. Only played 5 ball games. Had that knee scoped and dissected and a lot of things done to. And he's real protective as far as guys taking shots at his legs. You take a late shot on Bruce Smith is going to come after you and go after you. He's going to disregard the quarterback because he's from the old school. You take a shot at me, I'm going to balance the books by getting at you.
Second and 9. Big rush. Anthony Davis has got Collins. He gets away. And Collins throws it away. He's showing some nice elusiveness.
Yeah, Collins just barely throws that one away because the rule is when you're under pressure, your path has to go beyond the line of scrimmage. Davis comes unblocked. You see, John Fina, he has a man to contend with. There's no one to account for Davis in that protection. They would have assumed that Davis would have gone with the running back, Antoine Smith, when he went in motion out of the pocket. Todd Collins Collins does a good job avoiding the sack, the loss of yardage, and getting rid of the ball and not getting a penalty for grounding.
And his reward is a 3rd and 9. Collins fires, incomplete, intended Eric Moulds, Mark McMillan with the deflection, and a penalty marker again comes in late.
I don't like that. That official was 10, 20, 30 yards away from the call. You know, that may be his call to make. But the side judge is closer to the call.
Interference. Number 25, defense. That's a first down.
See, though, if I'm a player, I don't care who makes the call. As long as the correct call is made, let's see whether or not it is.
Baloney about the correct call. Let's get a guy closer to the play making the call. The bad thing about this, Eric that's a common play right there. Guy comes in, ball guy, they're about the same time. Can't tell 30 yards down the field if that's interference or not.
1st and 10 off the penalty. Collins under pressure. Heaves it downfield, a wobbly pass. Picked off. Jerome Woods. And a penalty marker on the play.
And the same guy who dropped his flag a moment ago just threw it again. And I think he's going to call pass interference on James Hasty.
Jerome Woods made the interception, but let's wait and hear from referee Tom White. Obviously, an unhappy coach.
But what Marty wants to make sure is that none of the players from his sideline go out on the field and get into a verbal battle with the official. That's what the call is. There's no question about it. Hasty got there early.
There's 5 seconds left in the 3rd quarter.
Pass interference. Number 40, defense. First down.
Did you hear the official's voice cracking a little bit there? I mean, he was sad to announce that it was pass interference. And the only reason James Hasty becomes a victim there, he gets that right arm on him a little bit. But what really happens is the fact that the ball is such a duck, it doesn't get there in time.
And that is after the play, Kerry Hicks.
Well, the job of the defensive lineman has always been, when an interception is thrown, go after the quarterback. You don't want to go low at the leg, but you're going to hit that guy because you want him out the game, and you want the number 2, the rusty guy, the guy who's making 1/10 the starting quarterback salary. You want him on the field trying to win the ball game.
So 2 key pass interference calls against the Chiefs puts Buffalo deep in Kansas City territory. Thurman Thomas taken down at about the 10-yard line. Anthony Davis on the tackle. And that will end the 3rd quarter. Another injured Bill down on the field. Bills lead at 10-9, but threatening here at Arrowhead Stadium, the home opener for the Chiefs, and the fans are not happy.
Telecast is presented by the authority of the National Football League and is intended for the private use of our audience. Any rebroadcast or other use of this telecast without the express written consent of the NFL is prohibited.
There's Tom Bresnahan, the former offensive coordinator for the Buffalo Bills. Now he's standing a long ways away from the action. But what it is, he's not mad because he lost his job to Dan Henning. He can just see the offensive line play better from a distance.
Like an official can see a play from a distance better, right?
I knew you'd get that in there.
2nd and 7. Collins going in the end zone. And no flag that time. Hasty on the coverage. Quinn Early, the intended receiver.
Now, Tom Bresnahan took over as offensive coordinator when Ted Marchibroda left to become head coach of the Indianapolis Colts. Bresnahan inherited another guy's offense, and that's really tough to work with. When it was time to make a change, he decided to go with Dan Henning, but he likes his vantage point down here so that he can see the play of the offensive lineman unfolding, and that's actually how he looks at film with his group. They look at it from the end zone shot. So he's seeing the same thing here that he sees on film.
Collins under pressure, taken down. Reggie Tung.
his troops. Good protection. No one open downfield. You see a receiver, Quinn Early, coming into view, and you see a Kansas City Chiefs player right behind him. Reggie Tongue, who was in coverage on the tight end. No tight end out in the route. I'll go get the quarterback.
Christie, a 34-yarder. And the Bills get 3 points, but the Chiefs defense comes up with some big plays in the red zone. Early fourth quarter, Bills 13-9.
The NFL on NBC is brought to you by UPS, the official package delivery company of the NFL. By Intel, makers of the amazing Pentium 2 processor. And by Texaco, a world of energy.
They need to root their team on. Kansas City trailing Buffalo 13-9. Steve Christie will kick off. Mark Vanover. The deep man as always. At his own 6.
Vanover. There he goes. He's not at his own 6 anymore.
He's going to go all the way.
Going to be a quick 6.
94 yards.
He's a helmet on.
And that has absolutely electrified the crowd. Chiefs back in front. And Stoyanovich will come on. As we mentioned earlier, Marv Levy's teams pride themselves on punt and kick coverage. Last week, Aaron Glenn returned one for a touchdown of the Jets, and this week it happens to the Bills again. 16-13 Kansas City, and Vanover's done it before.
Well, the biggest difference for Tamarick Vanover and a lot of other returners is he's the lone returner, which means the other 10 guys are blocking. It's not as if there's another guy back there competing for the ball and then trying to help block from later. He has 10 blockers initially up in front of him. You saw that, a perfect hole, and Steve Christie didn't even have time to get in position to block. Tamarick Vanover taking a knee to pray. Got to leave the helmet on, buddy.
You can pray with a helmet on, that's for sure. Vanover last Monday night, 2 fumbles. Of course, it didn't cost him a victory, but he was very upset with the 2 fumbles last Monday night. And comes right back to put the Chiefs in front here early in the fourth.
You know, this becomes the big turnaround play right here for the Buffalo Bills. They're going to get the kickoff back, but in addition to that, the Kansas City Chiefs have to move 15 yards further back to kick the football to get ideal position. Normally, with that ball moved back to the 30-yard line, you like to get a return out past the 30. You add another 15 yards out there, the Bills could potentially end up with this ball around midfield.
Todd Collins now has plenty of work to do. First-year starter, trying to get out of the shadow of Jim Kelly. Well, Marty Schottenheimer is fired up.
Yeah, I don't think Marty Schottenheimer ever backs off on his intensity. He said it's real simple. He said, I like to be consistent, I'm demanding, and I'm intense with these guys all the time. And it's not like on Wednesday and Friday, I'm their buddy. Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday, I'm going to be Mr. Tough Guy. Intensity, demanding, consistency. That's what he wants out of his ball club.
Vanover. That's an impressive run. And that brings Stoyanovich back on. Eric Moulds is back. At the 20. Moulds hit it about the 33.
And he just doesn't have the commitment running the ball back that Vanover does. He's kind of looking for a hole instead of making sure that there's a crease there.
Dana Hughes with the tackle. Let's go to New York. Greg Gumbel with another update.
All right, Mike, you and James were talking about impressive runs. We showed you Napoleon Kaufman's 61-yarder earlier. Look at this one. To the left side. Turns on the Jets. He goes 58 yards. Kaufman with 142 yards and 2 touchdowns today. The Raiders holding a 31-24 lead over the Falcons approaching the end of the third quarter, Mike.
Way back when Napoleon Kaufman was in high school, I saw him win the California State 100-meter championship. And they said he's going to Washington to play football. He loses a great track star, but he's turned into a terrific running back.
Collins right downfield for Quinn Early. He's got it. Quinn Early falls it in. A beautiful pass from Todd Collins. Dale Carter once again on the coverage.
I've been real impressed with the Buffalo Bills' willingness to throw the deep pass. By my recollection, and my memory's not real good because I got hit in the head a lot, they've thrown the ball deep 6 times this ball game. Come up with 2 big plays. That pass to Quinn Early, the touchdown to Andre Reed, and number 3, the penalty against Eric Mold when James Hasty bumped into him.
And Henning calls the play. They get 46 yards on it. Collins, quick dump off Antoine Smith, and Anthony Davis quickly wraps him up.
You know, if you're going to run a screen against man-to-man coverage, you need to complement that screen pass by having a receiver downfield to throw to, because the linebacker's job is to cover that guy one-on-one. He's watching him block, and you can tell when a guy is kind of blocking, but really waiting for something else to happen, and that's the case when a running back is getting ready for the screen. Some guys are better actors than others. Now, Thurman Thomas, he's a pretty good actor. Antoine Smith, not there yet.
Smith gets the carry. And bounces around and thrown back. Fumbled. But I believe the whistle came early.
You know, Jerry Ostrowski, you know, he grabbed that ball hoping that the whistle had blown, because if it hadn't blown, he had time and space to get up and run. And I'm not sure if it's a pretty sight watching somebody about 6'4", 240 pounds run with the ball. There's Smith. Woods comes in. His forward momentum is stopped. His knee might have not been down, but his forward progress was stopped. Jerry Ostrowski, luckily, cradles that ball even if it had been a fumble.
Jerome Woods with the hit. 3rd down and 6. Collins looking in the end zone. Tasker had one idea. Collins had another. Mark McMillan on the coverage. McMillan had another strong game.
Now, I'm trying to figure it out. Granted, I love Steve Tasker, but if Andre Reed's not hurt, he should be in the ballgame. You have Early and Molds on one side. You have Tasker. When you have a hitch route on, if it's bump and run coverage, you normally continue to go up. Well, that wasn't bump and run coverage because McMillan starts to bail out before the play was snapped.
And a 30-yarder from Steve Christie ties this one at 16. So the Bills answer right back. Just under 12 minutes remaining. We're all time.
The NFL on NBC is brought to you by Domino's Pizza. Call now to enjoy a hot and delicious Domino's Pizza during the game. For hot and wow, call Domino's now.
Hot afternoon in Kansas City. In fact, Andre Reed suffering from heat exhaustion. That's why he hasn't been playing. Vanover cuts inside again. And another nice return all the way up to the 31. And that's where the Chiefs will take over with this game tied at 16. Time for the Miller Lite game summary. Vanover getting this crowd up on its feet once again with his 4th career kickoff return for a touchdown. But Todd Collins and the Bills offense will really come alive in the second half.
Yeah, tough day on 3rd down for both teams. These are good numbers by Todd Collins. This is the good number. You wonder what that is? No interceptions. He's kept the ball away from the Kansas City Chiefs.
And he's been under pressure. Chiefs have sacked him 4 times. Now it's Gerbach's time, the other Michigan starter here. Gerbach well overthrows Andre Rison. Kurt Schultz just not tall enough to pick that one off.
As Andre Reed has been overcome by the heat a little bit, I would also have to think that a lot of the deep passes that he's run in this ball game will start to take their toll on you. Last Sunday, the Dallas Cowboys went down to Phoenix, played out there in the desert. By the third quarter, a lot of their players are cramping up. May not be as hot here, but the humidity and putting out that extra effort like he does every play will take its toll on his body.
Gerbach again overthrows, this time Ted Popson. Scholes once again in the area along with Eric Smedley.
You know, Gerbach high on both of those passes, and a lot of times when you're high, it's because you're not stepping into the football. And the reason you may not want to step into the football is you're afraid of who's coming up the middle. But right now, the Kansas City Chiefs have an extra guy waiting for Mr. Smith to see that he doesn't come into Mr. Gerbach's neighborhood.
That's what happens to you as Will Shields is down. That's what happens to you when you're one of the best ever at your position. Shields, the stalwart on this team on the offensive line. Pro Bowl last 2 years.
You know, we talked about Bruce Smith in the pregame show, and Marv Levy coming to him this week and saying, okay, Bruce, I'm going to spot play you a little bit so that you can take a bit of a rest. And Bruce, you know, he kind of looked at Marv and thought, you know, I'm not real sure about this, but Marv said, you know, for the good of the team, we'll have you fresh in the fourth quarter. We indicated that for his career, and these are just our numbers, 28% of his sacks have come in the fourth quarter. Last year, in the fourth quarter, when he was getting older, 51% of his sacks came in the fourth quarter. So he's a guy who's always in great shape. But with the addition of Marcellus Wiley, the second-round pick, he can spot Bruce once in a while and have Bruce even fresher.
This year's officers are Walter White, President, Tony Adams, and Ted McKnight, Vice President.
Andre Reed and the Bills, a very hot afternoon. Right now, 3rd and 10, 4 wide receivers in the game for Kansas City. Gerbach intended for Vanover, incomplete and 4th down.
You know, it won't go down as a sack, but that's the biggest pressure of the ball game right there. We talked about Bruce Smith before the break. Being able to turn it up in the fourth quarter, much like a Michael Jordan, where you save your best for the end of the ball game.
You've played in heat like this, and everybody goes through it, but this looks a little more serious than just a guy who's very hot down on the field.
Yeah, it does. If he's suffering from heat exhaustion, you need to get some of that restrictive clothing off of him, get some cold towels, ice around, to get his core body temperature back down.
Aguiar, who has had a terrific afternoon.
That's free medical advice. I'm not a doctor, but I play one on television.
Tasker at his 26. And Tasker up the sideline, knocked out of bounds at about the 44-yard line, where he's hit there by Bobby Houston, the former Jet. 43-yard punt. Tasker giving Buffalo some good field position, as we're still tied at 16 with a little over 11 minutes remaining in the fourth. Is this a case of he wants to come back in the game, so he doesn't want to go back in the locker room, or is maybe he right now too weak to go back to the locker room?
He might be too weak to get up, to walk away. I know his wife Cindy's probably watching this at home and concerned with him. And I think if it really were a medical problem, that they would have the cart out there to get him off. They've turned the full mist spray on him, so apparently he's okay for now.
Bills will start at their own 44. Thurman Thomas picks up maybe 2 yards. Kerry Hicks on the tackle.
Yeah, we talked about Thurman Thomas being more vocal. If I'm Thomas that time, I get up, I go back to the offensive line, and I tell them, you know, I saw those holes you opened for Antoine Smith. You got to remember, I'm old. Granted, I've had 1,000 yards for the last 8 years in a row, but believe me, guys, I need a hole to run to also.
I don't know if I've ever seen that on the sidelines, the way he's lying like that. Second and 8. Thomas goes up the middle. It is extremely hot here this afternoon, and as we mentioned, he had that 77-yard TD catch.
You know, if you look at the Bills, they have also changed their offense a little bit to accommodate the fact that maybe Andre Reed's not going to be available for the rest of the ball game. They went with the third tight end in that set, and there's Thurman Thomas limping off. But Thurman will tell you that he can limp off the field and be okay a couple of plays later. He's been through a lot of wars and he knows how to get himself ready in between series.
That expression you always hear, injuries are part of the game. Well, that is so appropriate here this afternoon. A lot of nicks and bruises. 3rd and 4 for Buffalo.
And they're coming after Collins again.
Collins fires. Intercepted. Reggie Tongue.
You don't throw late down the middle. That's what Collins did. He flushed out of the pocket, tried to throw back across his body to Jay Ramirza, and late down the middle will get you in trouble every time.
His first career interception. Now, we talked to Gunther Cunningham yesterday. He says Reggie Tongue and Jerome Woods, he has never seen two young safeties like this in all his years in football.
Yeah, but he had to say that because he's never had to play two second-year safeties side by side. One guy was the first-round pick, the other guy's a second-round pick. So you know they have worlds of talent, but he's having to be patient. Pretty sure he's glad they're in there right now.
Greg Hill, big hole. Eric Smedley runs him out of bounds at the 39. Good for a first down. Will Shields, who came back in the game, leading the way.
That time they were able to get around the end that Bruce Smith is employed upon, and when you get around his end, normally there's not a lot of other guys up. You see Bruce Smith getting double teamed. Bryce Pop has got to work upfield a little more. Chris Spielman will tell you, in that play I took him on with the wrong shoulder. All three of those all-pro guys will be ready for the next play. They can wipe that one out of their mind.
Hill tries to get away Bruce Smith and does. Breaks another tackle, a third one. And taken down. Smedley and Schultz finally bring him down.
And Elvis Gerbach helped Bruce Smith up off the field after he missed that tackle. Bruce Smith is kind of like Jim Brown used to be. You know, if he misses a play and he's on the ground, he's going to take the full complement of time to get up. See, Bruce Smith, he's down, but he's just resting. And you're kind of playing possum. You think, well, he's a little tired, maybe we'll go at him again.
Well, they stopped the replay. He's not going to move when they stop the replay.
I thought it was still running full speed.
Another first down. Hill gets the call again. Tripped up. Ted Washington stopping him. A couple of yard gain. Hill now over the 50-yard mark for the game. Washington, another player earlier, walked off injured. Had a number of players banged up, especially for Buffalo. Sam Rogers and Jeff Burris both going out early with injuries. And, of course, Andre Reed with the heat exhaustion. Derek Thomas not playing, but his Chiefs defense has done a good job without him.
Bootleg.
Gerbach, Nolan's in front of him. All the way down to the 5-yard line. Terrific call.
And that's the same play that Steve Bono scored on a couple of years ago when all he did was run down the field. I've never seen anybody run that slowly and no one be around him. Time Bono does a good job. The offensive line really creates the fake there. Everyone starts moving in that direction. And that was a pass. You saw Risen looking back at Gerbach. Gerbach said, nobody's out here. I'm just going to take off and run. It really, Elvis, you spiked the ball in the end zone.
Paul Hackett has a nice call, but as you mentioned, the offensive line helped with the fake. Gerbach with a very nice fake as well. First and goal at the 5.
Got a timeout coming. We don't have the right personnel in for this play.
And the Chiefs don't want to take any chances. Tied at 16. Just over 7.5 to play. Kansas City knocking on the door. They take their timeout, and finally Andre Reed gets up.
And I don't know if when you're overcome by heat exhaustion, and that's the report that we had on him, it's not like when you have the cramps, where you try and get fluid back in your system, and you get the guys to rub it out. If you have heat exhaustion, you basically need to take it easy. He almost needs to get off the field. Mike, you might have been right where they were afraid to move him, but it's good to see him up, to see him communicating. I'm surprised he doesn't don one of those caps that everybody puts on when they're on the sideline, just to keep the sun out of his face. He had a damp towel over himself before, but he's sitting under that cool mist zone there, and he's getting that cool air. down upon him so that get that body temperature back down. You have one of the trainers constantly looking over him just to make sure he's okay.
So they'll try the first and goal again. Chiefs at the 5. Greg Hill powers in. And just short, Tony Richardson with a big block to open it up as he gets down near the goal line. Marcus Allen coming into the game now.
Are you surprised that Marcus Allen
There's
coming
the shocker
into the game? You know, Marcus Allen is the guy who Al Davis tried to sit him down. He brought in Bo Jackson at one time, Eric Dickerson another time, Greg Bell, a former Buffalo Bill, and even Roger Craig. None of those guys are around, but Marcus Allen is.
They fake. Touchdown! Tony Richardson.
And Marcus Allen with a nice block from Brian Pop to allow Elvis Gerbach just enough time to get that ball into Tony Richardson.
Allen a bit of a decoy.
Well, not in his mind because he's the primary guy. He gets Bryce Pop in a position where he can't put his hands up to keep Elvis Gerbach from throwing the football.
So Tony Richardson, that's just his 3rd career reception. And it goes for the touchdown to give the Chiefs a 22-16 lead. Blocked. And it stays 22-16. It appeared Phil Hansen may have gotten a piece of it. And that quiets the crowd a little bit. But Elvis Gerbach into the Chiefs to lead here in the 4th. Chiefs leading 22-16, but that blocked extra point could come back to hurt them. Pete Stoyanovich had it blocked by Phil Hansen. And the lead 6, still plenty of time remaining.
Time for the Buffalo Bills special teams to answer the Kansas City Chiefs in this battle.
Holds at the 4. And is taken out at the 25. Greg Minuski on the tackle. And let's take a look once again at that block extra
Bruce
point.
Smith gets a credit for a lot of things, but this time it's Phil Hansen right there in the middle of your screen. He just knifes in between the left guard and the center, turns his body, and then lunges forward. A little bit of a low kick by Stoyanovich, but a great effort by Phil Hansen. You know, Bruce Smith has 3.5 field goal blocks for his career. How do you block half of a field goal? Do you like slice the ball in half? Half goes over, half doesn't?
Slightly tip it, but still has enough to get over. Somebody else hits it.
I would think that the second guy is responsible, but Bruce Smith lobbied for that half a block.
1st and 10, Antoine Smith. Hit quickly, but he still gains a few.
With Andre Reed out of the ball game, the threat on the outside is not as great. Eric Moulds is going to now have to play and produce the type of plays that Andre Reed has, and Quinn Early has to continue to come up with the consistent play that he has so far in this ball game. But they really need a big play from Eric Moulds in this ball game.
2nd and 7. Collins under pressure. Flips it off. He's got Lonnie Johnson. And Anthony Davis tracks him down. Again, Collins able to avoid the rush and get the pass off. Donnie Edwards should have had a sack.
You know, the fact that they do not have Derek Thomas almost presents more problems for the Buffalo Bills. When you watch the Kansas City Chiefs on film, blitz situations, you know that that man right there, Derek Thomas, is going to be the guy who's coming. Today, Gunther Cunningham has a full deck of cards to work with in front of him. One time I'll give him a little Donnie Edwards, another time Anthony Davis, another time somebody else, and it's confused the Buffalo Bills to this point.
A big 3rd and 3 for Collins. Complete, and it's good for a 1st down up to the 36-yard line. Eric Moulds taken down by Donnie Edwards, and Thurman Thomas, who we saw limp off earlier, but looks okay there.
Well, they're splitting time between Thurman Thomas and Antoine Smith, 50-50. You see Thurman kind of grimacing there a little bit. He's going to adjust the pads or maybe his knee braces. Maybe he's going to pump some air in his shoes so that he's ready to go back in the ball game when he gets the signal.
Big 3rd down play that time from Collins. Wave fake. Collins intended for Riemersma. Terry Wood, the linebacker, on the coverage. And second down coming up.
You know, you mentioned the heat, the humidity, and the tough thing now for the Buffalo Bills is they don't have that wide receiver rotation to go with. In the first half, if Andre Reed had gone deep, you can plug in Eric Moulds. If Quinn Early goes deep on the other side, somebody else can come in. Now they're down to 3 wide receivers, with Steve Tasker really only being the other receiver they have available.
Big rush. Collins dumps it off. Antoine Smith with a nice catch, but hit hard and brought down from Jerome Woods.
Jerome Woods makes a fantastic play. He beats the block of Ruben Brown and gets to the screening back. If he doesn't get there, it can be a big play. There's Ruben Brown. You see him going out to block. Right there is a block that's missed. He comes up with a great play by Jerome Woods.
So another big third down.
There's Eric Moulds. You got a little bit of jersey there on both sides. That's what fatigue will do to you, to make you grab out for someone when you should be blocking.
3rd and 8. Collins fires. Incomplete. Mark McMillan once again. The intended receiver was Moulds.
You know, you see McMillan strutting around right there. That's a well-conditioned athlete. He's playing at a different speed than Eric Moulds is, who is trying to get open on that route. I'm watching Eric Moulds, and it almost looks like he has it in glide, where Eric McMillan, he's used to guys coming after him. 5'7", you know you can't hide on the football field. Moulds right off of his fingertips. If he accelerates through that ball, he's pulling away from McMillan. He's trying to glide into it and catch it. I'm making it an easy catch.
Chris Moore on the punt. Dana Hughes is back. Short kick. Hughes stays away from it. And Tim Tyndale downs it at the 27. You want more NFL stuff? Well, the season extends to the World Wide Web on NFL.com, the league's official website. Visit NFL.com for all scores, stats, and of course, complete roundup of this weekend's scores in action. You can chat live with some of the NFL's biggest stars. Any former stars, Mr. Lofton?
Now, you know what the area code is on this, don't you?
Nope.
That's the WWW part. That's
right.
The area code. And this is actually the phone number. So I know you know nothing about computers, so I'm trying to break it down for you. So you do that, you can get it up and just...
You're an educational partner. I thank you for that.
You know, you need to buy a computer. That would help.
Marcus Allen and the Chiefs holding on. Greg Hill gets up to about the 30. 3-yard pickup.
The elements of the game become very, very basic now. For the Kansas City Chiefs, it's run the football. The one thing that Marv Levy preaches for his team is to be able to run the football and to stop the run. Greg Hill, we talked about Thurman Thomas earlier. It's not the knees that go first, but the shoulders. You saw Hill at the tail end of that play. He delivered the blow into Thomas Smith. Deliver the blow with those shoulders, and that's what starts to come unglued. Sometimes your 10th year like Thomas, sometimes your 3rd or 4th year like Greg Hill.
Oh, some pain there. 2nd and 7. Gerback to Kimball Anders. Anders scampers up to about the 34-yard line. The 3rd and short is coming up. Bryce Pop takes him down. There your time remaining and the timeouts remaining. Bills still with all 3.
But a critical 3rd down situation here for the Buffalo Bills. 2 minutes and 40 seconds on the clock. You have to stop them here and then either call timeout immediately or let it go down to the 2-minute warning. And that's what Marv Levy's discussing with his coaches. We make this stop. Do we call timeout? We get a stop then. When we get the ball, you get a stop also at the 2-minute warning. But for Kansas City here, I don't run the football. I put the ball in the air and get it away from that front 7.
3rd and 3. Greg Hill back in the game, gets the call. Phil Hansen comes up big right there, and 4th down, Kansas City will have to punt.
Well, I hate to disagree with coaches and say that you've made a bad call. We're going to have a timeout here by the Buffalo Bills. But right there, the Kansas City Chiefs, 12 seconds is the differential that would have run off the clock that they didn't get by throwing the football. You throw the football, you're away from those guys who are hard charging up the field, and you have a chance to get back in the ball game. Now it's in Buffalo's court.
This is the sound of commitment. The the planes, trucks, and people of UPS in action, giving you more on-time delivery options than anybody else. Whether it's same day, overnight, 2-day, 3-day, ground, international. In other words, whatever you need to move your business.
Thanks.
UPS, moving at the speed of business.
Louis Aguiar on the punt and gets it off. Tasker, fair catch at the 33. And Buffalo will take over. They've got 2 timeouts remaining with 2 minutes and 7 seconds. And they trail by 6. How important now that blocked extra point. That could be enormous. Phil Hansen blocking Stoyanovic's extra point on the Chiefs' last touchdown.
Obviously, the extra point looms big here, but the biggest factor for the Buffalo Bills is that they do not have Andre Reed available. With Andre Reed available, you can go with the 3 wide receiver formation and get things done. Right now, they have 2 tight ends, 2 wide receivers, 1 lone running back, Thurman Thomas. To me, it's up to Eric Moles to come up with the play that Andre Reed would normally make in this situation.
Moles, last year's first-round pick. Collins throws. Riemersmer's got it and gets up to the 39. And we will have the 2-minute warning. Bills trying for a last-second victory here at Kansas City. Bruce Smith and the Bills defense sit now and watch and hope that the offense can get it in the end zone as they trail 22-16, 2 minutes remaining. Bills still with 2 timeouts left, the ball at their own 38. And this crowd rising, getting on their feet. Collins to Riemersma in Kansas City territory at the 45.
And James Hasty can't believe it that a big, slow, former quarterback at Michigan just caught a pass in front of me. Good hustle to get up to the line of scrimmage. Now the poise to get the correct play calls. You don't have to rush here. You have plenty of time.
15-yard pickup that time. Again, they have 2 timeouts left. Collins, quick throw. Quinn Early's got it and gets out of bounds. At the 37-yard line, Dale Carter there in the coverage. And 2 quick strikes for Buffalo with 1:25 remaining and still the 2 timeouts left.
Yeah, but this is not a field goal drive. 3 points does nothing for the Buffalo Bills here. You have to start planning end zone and how do we get in the end zone. It'll be interesting to see if Kansas City will gamble. Right now, the 3-man pass rush. There's 2 guys coming. The second guy, Darren Anderson, who came up with the big interception last week off of Jeff George, does a good job stopping Thurman Thomas right in his tracks.
And a loss on the play. Clock continues to roll. Still a little over a minute. They're saving those 2 timeouts, obviously. Collins has to step up. Fires, complete. Eric Moles.
Why?
And Moles stays in bounds.
Why?
He stayed in bounds.
Well, now's the time to burn a timeout.
Not yet, though. 18-yard pickup.
And there's Marv Levy. He's not yelling at his player. He's yelling at the official for not acknowledging Todd Collins earlier. We have a timeout.
1 timeout now remaining for the Bills. The ball is at the 22-yard line.
One of the tough things about being very, very talented is you think that your talents outweigh making reasonable decisions. Right there, he makes a decision to try and cut back, gain yardage, where he could have easily gone out of bounds. If you're old and frail, you go out of bounds, but when you're young and strong, you try and head upfield.
He was less than a foot away from getting out of bounds, and now they're down to their final timeout. Marty Schottenheimer saw his offense march down the field in the final minute with no timeouts and beat the Raiders Monday night.
You know, you think, well, could have gone out of bounds, but, you know, we called timeout instead. About 6 seconds burned off the clock there from when he could have stepped out of bounds to when they finally got the timeout called. That 6 seconds is one play. That's one play that the Buffalo Bills hope that they don't need to win this ballgame.
The missed extra point by Stojanovic gives the Bills a chance to win it here in the final seconds. They've got 22 yards to get into the end zone. Collins hit, fires complete. Lonnie Johnson inside the 10 down to the 7, and Collins
whose
again.
helmet flew off in the middle of the pile there.
And Lonnie Johnson is really hurt. They've got
Lonnie
one timeout
Johnson's
remaining.
leg is not going at the proper angle. That right leg looks like it's broken.
That is very scary to look at. As Johnson obviously in an awful lot of pain. Collins once again making an incredible play to get the pass off when it looked like he was going down. Bills called their final timeout.
Both medical staffs are headed out on the field. This looks like a pretty serious injury. Todd Collins takes the ball. There's a lot of pressure up the middle. Great job. Corbin Lucina gets his helmet popped off there. The only way to get your helmet thrown off is if someone has their hands at your face. Lonnie Johnson comes back, heads up the field, and it's his right leg that they're attending to. See him stop, plant, and then he gets hit. Twisted around. It's hard to tell exactly what happened.
Jerome Woods has him down by the right ankle.
You know, he's up. You know, I said it looked like a broken leg. It looked like that thing was going at an angle that a leg normally doesn't go at.
And he was smacking on the turf. He was in a lot of pain,
but you can see him giving instructions to his teammates now, imploring them to make this thing worth it, to culminate this drive with a touchdown.
So now 1st and goal at the 7. The Bills had to use their final timeout. There's 27 seconds remaining. Chiefs hoping that missed extra point or the block extra point does not come back to haunt them.
And Marty Schottenheimer was all the way down to the 10-yard line telling Mark McMillan, who's on the far side of the field, watch for the alley-oop pass. They're going to try and get one up over the top of you.
3 wide receivers in the game as Tasker comes in. Collins' first year as a starter. Looks to the end zone. Incomplete. Intended for Quinn Early, and Mark McMillan right there again.
Mark McMillan realizes that he's a marked man. It came right after him on that play. Defended it well. The pressure doesn't stop there. Only 6 seconds, 4 seconds run off the clock that play. The Bills have time to run 3 more plays. 3 shots at the end zone. Collins has to avoid getting sacked by the blitz. He has to get rid of the football.
2nd and goal just inside the 8. Collins rolls, looks back the other way, fires and throws it away. He was going to get sacked.
Yeah, Tasker on that side of the field matched up against McMillan.
Vaughn Booker with the pressure.
You have to love watching McMillan after that play. He went over to the fans, said, give me some, give me some. They can't come this way.
He's got to wait 2 more plays. 3rd and goal. Just inside the 8-yard line. 18 seconds remaining. Buffalo is out of timeouts.
Both for Marv Levy and Marty Schottenheimer, the headsets are off. No advice coming from upstairs on these plays. Thurman Thomas would be a good choice out the backfield here.
Collins, as he throws, goes up in the air. Nearly picked off by Dale Carter. But again, the pressure. Jerome Woods.
Sometimes you can get a little too cute with your formations. No one's there to pick up the blitz. Thurman Thomas has to come from the outside to try and pick off Jerome Woods. He's a step late getting there. Woods all over Collins on that play. Collins trying to listen to the signals from the sideline. It comes down to this one last snap.
4th and goal at the 7. This is the game right here. Austin McMillan. And the Chiefs win.
Steve Tasker matched up against McMillan, tries a little out, and then a hook back to the inside. The ball thrown behind him. The pressure on Todd Collins caused that interception. They disrupted him. They got in his face. They knocked him down. Right up the middle, Thurman Thomas has to pick up. Blitzing lineman. Can't pick up the linebacker, Troy Dumas, from the outside. And Dumas comes up with the big hit.
Burback will kneel down, and the Chiefs will go to 2-1. Defense, 3 straight plays where Collins had absolutely no time to throw the football. Hooker, Woods, and Dumas were the key defensive plays.
In fact, we have an unsportsmanlike penalty on the Buffalo Bills. You can understand their frustration. They felt as if Steve Tasker had been interfered with. Someone probably got a little too verbal with the officials on the sideline. There's Andre Reed hidden behind the crowd there, and you have to believe that if he's healthy, he makes a difference in this ball game.
Reed not playing much in the second half with the heat exhaustion. And that does it. Kansas City Chiefs win their home opener. The defense does it without Derek Thomas.